Gotcha.
Done. It's recording.
Nice.
How'd you learn all this stuff? Just from growing up,
Uh,
trying things out, meeting girls and stuff, picking up girls.
uh,
If you want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it, we don't talk about it.
I mean, like I said, most of the stuff that I've learned, it's been just, through relationships, talking to people. I used to go to numbers when I was 16. So I got in the game a little early, like earlier than everybody else, I believe. I mean, not everybody else, but as far as, seeing how people acted around each other, I was also very introduced into sexuality very early on,
Yeah.
as opposed to, other people. But I think, and like I said, this is one of the reasons why I believe that what's happening right now is not healthy, because it's just being shoved in your face, and you have to accept it, and you're not even
What's
trying
being shoved in
it.
your face?
Sexuality,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
right? Where instead of having to go through the grind and seeing it firsthand, trying it out, and
Being
just, like,
rejected.
being rejected, like doing all these other things,
And meeting girls and picking them up
Right.
and stuff like that. And
Right.
no, I went to ask their numbers or not asking their numbers.
Right. And I mean, I made a joke a couple of days ago that kids nowadays need a cock blocker. It's like you have to have that cock blocking friend because he's gonna keep you pure for your actual relationship. And I said that as a joke, but I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
You should
too.
just like start writing this stuff down. Like use like the voice memo on your phone.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I tried doing that and I'm like, I'm gonna remember this later. And then I get home, like I'm sitting in front of my notebook. I'm like,
And it was so funny because, like I said, my friend recently passed away, and we were all there. It was the whole crew,
Yeesh.
20, 25 of us.
and you
So,
said you knew him since 1999?
1999 is when I
A
knew
long
this.
time ago.
So, I knew his whole family. I knew all his girlfriends. All of us friends grew up with each other. We all
From Pasadena?
from Pasadena, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we all used to hang out, stay the night at other people's houses. We would stay out at one person's house one weekend, another person's house another weekend, and we would just shift over like that. And we did that. Played video games.
So when you moved, you were born in Monterrey,
Monterrey.
and then when you came to Texas, was Pasadena the first city you lived in, or what?
I was in LaPorte first.
Okay.
Yeah. So
When
came
you
in-
were like, what age roughly? Do you remember?
I was 12.
Okay.
I went to Baker Junior High, I believe. That's what it was an all sixth grade school.
Okay.
That's all they had, just sixth graders. And then after that, you went to 7 and 8 in a different school. And then, but whenever I came to Pasadena was 6, 7, and 8, all in one school. But by that time, I was already in 7th grade.
Okay.
And that's whenever I met everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Because yeah, I remember I met Shane, and then did you guys come as a pair, or was it did I meet Shane and then I met you with him? I don't remember. It's been a long
no, you
time.
met Shane first.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because their crew was they were already playing Magic, and Shane was from MLK, I believe, somewhere around here. No, he was from Channelview or
What? Oh yeah, I think he
Sea
said,
King.
Yeah, I think he
Sea
said in
King,
East Houston. Yeah.
right? But then whenever he would go visit his dad, he would hang out with the Pasadena crew.
Okay.
So that was like Brandon, Jaime, Alex.
And y'all circles overlapped. Yeah.
Eventually. So eventually what happened was that I moved. My mom moved me from Sam Rayburn to Pasadena because we had moved and they had crossed the line or whatever. So I wasn't able to go to Rayburn, so I started going to Pasadena. This was until my junior year. Then I met Ernest, and I don't think you even know Ernest.
Even
You
then, it's been a
might have.
long time. I remember.
He owned the restaurant. With his family owned the restaurant. It was like a little tiny restaurant in Pasadena.
Sounds familiar, but it's been such a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I met Ernest first, and then Ernest introduced me to his crew. That was where Shane comes in, Jaime, Brandon, you know.
Yeah.
Then we started hanging out, and as a matter of fact, Shane was seriously hilarious. The first words that came out of his mouth to me ever was just like, "Hey man, how much can you lift?" I was like, "I don't fucking know. Like, what, 100, 200? Like, I don't know, right?" He was like, "Oh, well, I can do like 225
Cool.
or something." It was like, "All right, cool." You know, like I wasn't thinking about fitness
Like-
or like weightlifting or anything, but because Shane was just so,
That's funny.
yeah, he was weird. Once we started hanging out more, we
Uh-huh.
started playing more Magic. You know, we moved from the scrub phase because they used to rip me off all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I was buying Onslaught because I really wanted that Gorgon, that what was her name?
I want to say Viscera.
This,
Was it Viscera?
I
She like
think
tap
so.
and destroy target creature.
right.
Yeah.
So I really wanted a Visara. It was, you know, I was like, man, that's.
I mean, the
she's
art looks
so
great.
Awesome.
The
Yeah,
art
the
looks
art
awesome.
is great.
You know.
Her ability is, I mean, I thought it was useful. Obviously, it's not useful, but you know, I was like 5/5 flyer. You
Yeah.
could just reanimate her or whatever. So I really wanted one. Shane had one, but I kept on pulling all these stupid dual lands, all these sack lands out of them.
These
And I
lands-
had
all they do is get you lands.
I had
That's
6. I
dumb.
was like, what? I pay 1 life to get a forest?
That's it.
I was like, what is this? Like, this is such a ripoff. So I kept on buying Onslaught and I kept on just pulling all these sack lands. So my binder was like a whole page full of sack lands that I didn't use. And then I really just wanted to get Desolation Angel.
You wanted big
Vistara.
creatures.
Yeah, like I wanted all these creatures, all these new creatures. And you know, sometimes they would feel that I would be like, hey, you know, 1 for 1.
Yeah.
I'll give you this, you know, whatever, this flooded strand for like a Visara. And then Shane would kind of feel bad. He'd be like, nah, just like take more.
Take-
like take more. I'm like, what? It's like, I'm getting what I want. Like, I can
Yeah,
just-
it's a card, right?
He's like, nah, bro. Like,
There's levels to this.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, like this is not fair. But other people would just rip me off like
Oh.
1 for 1. I believe Alex used to just 1
Really?
for 1 me.
Go through
for-
your binder. I guess I'll
yeah,
take
he would
this
just
one.
get like all these 4, and he would take, you know, whatever, because I didn't know what the value of
Yeah.
the cards were. I was
Yeah.
just playing, so I would take Decree of Pain, you know, trade in my Decree of Justice for like a Decree of Pain, and so
I mean, but I think that's important to have like a crew when you like playing Magic and stuff like that, just to like not only like bounce ideas and play with, you know, and like kind of just trade and stuff like that. Because you know sometimes it'll be like, I have these cards, want to build this deck or whatever, stuff like that. But when you're by yourself, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy Magic when I played it, but when you're just by yourself and you're kind of like just goldfishing, that sucks. I mean, now you could play online, but I don't know how that compares to actually
Well-
playing. And then just the way how Wizards of the Coast is with
well,
Magic.
the thing that these guys were lacking at the time, and this is what I mean, how, you know, I was getting what I wanted and I didn't care. And then whenever I would put these things into a deck, I would slaughter them, and they didn't understand like what was happening, because there was this one card, it was terrible. It was called Morality Shift. I don't know if you ever you knew
That sounds
what
familiar.
You would exchange your graveyard with your deck. So what I would do is I would like ramp up a Morality Shift, put everything in my graveyard, and then Living Death, and get like 4 Laquatus champions and
The other thing, they come to play, they take away some life or something like that.
6.
Yeah,
like that would.
and then when he
6
comes back, you get your 6 back, right?
right.
they
But then
smash.
I would get 4 of them out because
GGs.
of the
yeah, they were not legendary.
So I would just be like, okay, 4 Laquatuses, like GG, and they're like, what the hell?
that work?
Like, how are you even doing that? Like, they would get so mad.
And I remember that. I remember telling you and Shane last time we were hanging out, like Vic always came out with these weird decks that on paper shouldn't work, but then they do. I'm just like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, there was decks. Greater Goods was one of my favorites. I don't know if you know what that is.
Greater Goods, yeah, you sacrifice a creature, draw cards or something like that. I forgot what
Draw
it was.
equals its power and then discard 3.
Yeah.
So for like a reanimated deck, that was the best, because not only are you fueling your graveyard, you're also drawing
up a
into
hand.
the reanimating spells. So there was a lock that I would do with like Clean Crawler, which is a 6/6 hybrid black green
Sounds familiar.
for 6, right? With I think it had something. I think it might have had trample.
Mm-hmm.
But if a creature died that turn, you can put it back in your hand.
Really?
So what I would do is I would get the green crawler back, Yosei, sacrifice Yosei, tap you out,
Lock them down.
lock him down, and then the green crawler would put the Yosei back in my hand. So I would just be able to play the Yosei again and then just tap you out and beat you.
Yeah.
And they were just not happy that that was like a thing that was happening to
Yeah, 'cause
them.
I think Yosei was like tap 5 permanents of your opponent, and they
Right.
skipped the untapped stage and all that.
Right. Yeah, they don't print, cards that fun no more. It's not.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Shane, and I was like, "Oh, what about these cards? Are they any good anymore?" He's like, "No. You're looking at it different, dude. It's not about instants and sorceries and stuff like that. Now it's about creatures that could do stuff like really, really cheap and really, really fast." I'm like, and we talking about that ape that does little treasures and stuff like that. I forgot what it's called, but I was just like,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Magic's gotten.
the power level just crept up, right?
I wouldn't even say that. I think they just stopped printing good spells, and they started making it to where they wanted to have a fair, like a mid type kind of game. Like games can go 7 or 8 turns rather than 2 or 3.
God Hand and
But because they're creatures, the ones that are doing everything, you can just get rid of the creatures and then you're just prolonging the game. So it's a little bit more interactive. But like a couple of years ago, I was playing a deck that had the Lolth. Did you ever see that card? She was a 5-mana planeswalker, 3 colorless, double black. And then she didn't have any plus abilities. She had a negative ability that was a draw spell, so you could like draw and lose a life. And then she had like a negative, I believe it was like -3 ability, where you could put 2 1/2s with reach. And then she had an ultimate ability where if a creature hits you, they would lose 8 life. Like you lose 8 life. So if any creature hits you, if it was a 1-drop or whatever, you would make
top of their damage, you're losing 8 life.
No. You if they hit you, they would lose 8 life no matter what the damage was. So if it was 4, it was gonna go to 8.
Oh.
If it was 1, it was gonna go to 8. So like everything was just gonna be in like intervals of 8.
Yeah.
So you would just lose the difference from each creature hitting. But then she would get pluses if creatures died. So however many creatures died on your field, like that's how many pluses would go on her.
Okay.
So that's how you would alt her, like the amount of creatures that were dying, like she was gonna get the pluses. But at the same time, there was a guy, he was a 1-drop, he was a 1/1 zombie, that when he died, you can either get a treasure or you can -1/-1 someone. So it's like that friends what was that festering goblin?
Festering Goblin when you guys
Yeah,
-1.
So it was a festering goblin, or it could ramp you. And then there was a card that was a colorless and a black. You can sacrifice a creature, gain a treasure, and draw 2 cards. So what you would do is you play the 1/1 like little festering zombie. Then you would play that card, and then you're drawing to getting 2 treasures, and then you could play LOL the next turn at 5. And that wasn't even a good thing to do.
Really?
Yeah. And that's crazy to me. I'm like, you're bringing a whole 5-mana planeswalker, and it's still not the best thing that you could do. And that would have been broken back in the day,
But now?
But now it's like nothing.
You still play Magic?
Not so much anymore. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
What was the shift in Magic? What made you want to just let's slow down, and what brought in Yu-Gi-Oh?
Well, Yu-Gi-Oh is like playing Legacy.
Okay. It's whatever. Yeah, because it's just one giant pool, right?
It's just one.
They just keep adding to it instead of shifting and rotating.
They just ban things that they don't think is fun, and then they just keep the whole pool, so you can play old cards or whatever, but obviously like way power crept. But I mean, you could find some kind of loop and still be able to play those cards, but like I said, it's just the power creep is crazy in that game. But it really is like playing Legacy. So it feels like playing Legacy. And someone who loves Legacy, has played Legacy, whenever you play Yu-Gi-Oh, it kind of feels like that.
Really?
And I mean, I remember when we were first playing, there was like no stack, right? Like it was just, we would do things and then you would just respond with it and then that was it. But now there's these huge chains, and that was one of the biggest problems that I had playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that I was trying to resolve it like on the stack.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, well, I have a
that's-
respondent in between this chain. And they were like, nah, that's not how that works. It's like you gotta let the whole chain resolve, and then you
something
can and then you can have a response. And I was like, man, I was doing that so wrong because I wanted to do something in between chains, and that's not
Like
how it
after this
works.
resolves, now I'm gonna activate this ability. But
And they're
yeah,
like, no,
you were
that's not.
approaching it as a mentally as a Magic player.
Right. So that also screwed me up with some games because I was doing the chains wrong. So you also had to learn how to do the chains, initiate the chains, and then be able to keep up with the chains so you can have the right responses. And also there's priorities too. So your chains, if you're active player, your chains resolve, and then theirs resolve. So that was another thing too.
Whoever active there first.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was also one of the things because it's not just putting it on a stack where, well, the stack doesn't matter, right? The stack is whoever started it and then you just put it on top and then you're resolving it. But like certain things don't trigger like they would trigger on, like on your turn, your stuff would trigger first. So then you would have priority on that and then you start the chain. So that was kind of like one of the things that I was like, man, it's kind of complicated and I really liked it. And also having to learn so many cards so fast and then be able to play accordingly.
So
Like,
what got you not wanting to play Magic? Or what was the decline of it? Do you remember? Just friends not playing anymore? You got upset with the cards? Or just got bored with them? Or...
I think it was...
And what set? Do you remember what set it was? Because mine was usually around like Time Spiral. That's when I started noticing. I was just like, I think I'm ready to stop playing it, which was unfortunate because I started during the Invasion block, early 2000s. Then it went into the Onslaught block. What was after that? Mirrodin, maybe?
Yes.
And then
Kamigawa.
Kamigawa, and then Ravnica.
Yes.
I think Invasion block and Ravnica were probably my favorite sets because they really emphasized in playing dual to tricolors, and I really enjoyed it. But then by the time Spiral came around, I was just like, I think I'm ready to
So
stop.
you're missing one. It was like Invasion and then Odyssey.
Odyssey, that's right.
And then Onslaught.
Yeah,
and
right.
then
Yeah. Odyssey was
Kamigawa.
fun too. I did like Odyssey with Threshold and Flashback.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that one I did like that one
And
a
then
lot.
I think it was Ravnica, Time Spiral maybe?
Yeah. And then from there, that's when I was out.
And then Lorwyn. Oh, Lorwyn was really fun. That's
Yeah.
when they really
Well, that's
introduced the Planeswalkers and everything.
Oh, wait, when was the one where they started introducing fairies and kitchen finks and all that stuff?
That was Lorwyn.
Was it? Okay.
So I still played a whole lot. I mean, some of my fondest moments, if you could say, happened after that. Playing elves, playing Primeval Titan was one of my favorites.
But you never played like set up like traditional archetypes. You always played your homebrew stuff you made, right? Or how was it? Because I know me and Shane were always like, all right, we gotta make this deck. This is what all the pros are playing, and we gotta try it out.
So there was one time that I broke that rule. That
You broke the rule.
I broke the rule of like playing my brews. It was because I really admire this guy named Jeff Hoogland. And Jeff Hoogland made this I'm not even sure he was writing for Star City Games at the time. He was writing for somebody else. And he had posted this deck. It was blue, red, green, Primeval Titan, Ponder, Temporal Mastery, I believe, is the one that you pay 2, you take an extra turn.
I think I remember Ponder. Look at the top 2, put one on the bottom, one on top.
No, top 3, I believe.
Oh, top 3.
Yeah, top 3, like grab one, then shuffle.
And the shuffle there 2 back. I don't know.
No, you put 2 back, and I think you shuffle.
Something like that, yeah.
So, or I'm pretty sure it was something like that. It was like a brainstorm kind of, but
I bet you if Shane was here right now, he'd be like, "It's this."
yeah,
He would know.
I'm pretty sure is I'm not sure if like you draw the card first and then you look at the top 3 and you set it up, or something like that. Oh, hold on.
I remember there was one like look at top card and you may choose to put on top or the bottom and then draw a card. I forgot. I don't know. Whatever.
There's because there's 3 of them that are like that. There's one that's like Scry 2, right?
That's right,
And
scry.
then you put one on top and then
That's
one on
right.
the bottom.
Yeah.
But Ponder wasn't that. Ponder was I believe you either draw and then look at the top three.
Hold
But
on.
I'm
Ponder, real
pretty sure.
quick.
Yeah.
Let me look it up. MTG Ponder. MTG Ponder. Wizardsofthecoast.com. No. Oh, God damn it. Like, do you want to set all the cookies? No, just show me an image. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library. Draw a card.
Right.
Okay.
So it's almost like a brainstorm, except you don't add them to your hand. So what you would do is that you would play in 4 Temporal Masteries, 4 Bonfires of the Damned, and those were miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bonfire of the Damned was like red and X, and then you would deal X damage to your opponent and to their field if you miracle it. If not, it was like double red and double X or something. So it was really bad to try to cast it not naturally or whatever.
And how is the mechanic of Miracle? How does that work?
You would look at the top card of your deck, or you look at the top card of your deck. If it was the next card that you were about to draw, you can play it for the miracle cost.
Oh, okay.
So with Tempora Mastery, you could go Ponder, set up. Okay, Temporal Mastery on top. Okay, we'll leave that. We'll draw a card. Leave Temporal Mastery on top. Next turn, take an extra turn, play a land. Then the next turn, you would go again and then ramp even more. So that now so the most popular deck back in the day was red-green ramp. That they had that one card that was like red, green, and X, and then target creature would get X plus 0. So they would just play, that card and then just pump one card and hit you for like 1,000,000 or whatever, So it was kind of like a fair deck, but it was running 4 Rampant Growths. It was running what's it called, that Solemn Simulacrum.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like
And Jens
4 Rapid
Thorn's
Growth, 4 Solemn Simulacrums.
emissional winning card. Yeah, they don't do that anymore, huh? When you win a.
Oh yeah, they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think they disbanded all that, right? Yeah. But I remember that being cool. Like, oh, you win and then you get to make a card. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
They made a bunch of cool ones.
Yeah.
But that was the whole thing. Like, you wanted to go Ponder, Rampant Growth, Solemn Simulacrum, Primeval Titan, and then after Primeval Titan, it was you deal with Primeval Titan or it was game over. And then I think I was running Karn, the 7-mana Karn, and he was just a huge beast.
Planeswalker too, right?
You're right. He would come in with
Planeswalkers came in during what?
Lorwyn.
Is that when they had vampires and werewolves?
No, that was Innistrad.
That's Innistrad. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like a damn boomer.
Yeah. No. I believe after Lorwyn, we had like another set that was kind of like Lorwyn, that kind of stayed in the same
Same world, same plane.
World, yeah. But it was just I guess like the evil version of it. I forgot what Shadowmoor, I think it was called. I mean, I'm not 100%.
It's been a long time.
But then after that one, they started doing Shards of Alara, and then Shards of Alara was also a very fun multicolor set.
Yeah.
And they had the next set of Planeswalkers, Johnny, Elspeth.
Yeah, I would have to have Kevin and Morris here because I remember they played a lot of Magic. I don't know if they still play anymore, but they would every once in a while tell me about it and like, oh, there's new cards. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, those were really fun times. Like, all of those sets were really fun, really interactive. The drafting was really fun. And then once they started discontinuing the Pro Tour, or where they got rid of the pros couldn't make money out of being in these tournaments no more. So they got rid of like being platinum status, being gold status, being all this status. They got rid of it all. And I remember that was a dream, right? Because the dream was, well, I want to keep playing Magic.
You love playing.
I love playing, and I want to make money in order for me to like make money, enough money for me to like self-sustain.
Yeah.
Because these people were, they were still making in the like tens of thousands of dollars, especially if you were a pro player.
Yeah.
Like you would
travel.
You win a top 8.
Doing what you like.
Yeah, you're making pretty good money. So I mean, that was kind of the dream, but they were like, "Oh, well, we want to make it a like an esport, and whoever wins can win like $500,000 or something, like something ridiculous or whatever." It was like, yeah, that's cool and all, but you know, those $500,000 was also like what all of us were making, like overall,
Like spread
right?
out,
So
yeah.
it's the same amount of money, except without having to, you know, wait for Worlds to do like one big cash out, and obviously, you know, I'm not gonna say that like we couldn't have done it because everything is still kind of like luck based. But like an LSV, like if I would go against an LSV or like Apollo Vitor,
What's the
like,
LSV?
he's like one of the most winningest
Winningest.
like pro players.
Okay. It's
Like a
initials.
Brian Kibler, you know, LSV, Paulo Vitor.
Okay, it's
like-
initials for someone. LSV, like
Yeah.
George St. Pierre, GSP.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Luis Scott Vargas is his
Okay.
name. Yeah, so you know those guys, they're completely committed. They get all the scoops. They have card shops. They are
It's all
nonstop
eat, and
writing.
breathe, and sleep magic.
Yes.
It's all they're focusing on, learning what's the matchups and what's the metas and what what a
And
sideboard.
that's like literally all they do. But you know, you have like I guess what you would call a regular guy has a 9 to 5, plays the stuff on Fridays and Saturdays, goes to these tournaments, you know, every once in a while.
The casual guy.
They, you know,
the casual like tournament goer.
But then you would still, you know, we still saw results. Like, you know, our group, Shane won a couple of Star City games.
Yeah, I remember talking to him about it a couple of months ago.
I won 2 PTQs.
Oh wow.
Our friend Sean got second at the Houston GP.
Really?
I mean, I went top 32 at a GP in Austin. Like, I mean, I think Shane had another good viewing, and I mean, even now we still have some of the players that we used to, you know, play with, that those guys have been topping too.
Really?
So, you know, even in our own crew, we had people that were pretty good. What was the name? Rick. No, what was the guy?
I'm Rick.
The boss Ross. You ever heard about that guy? He's from Louisiana.
The rapper?
No. He was a Star City. He used to go to a bunch of Star City games, and we actually played with him.
Oh, yeah?
He was like in an alternate like play group. We had him come in one time. He stayed the night over at our house. You know, we played with him. He was doing some plays, and I was like, holy crap! Like, this is what next level looks like, right? But then whenever you play test with those guys, you get to learn how to be like that good.
And what were some of the things he was doing? Just being aware of like things. I mean, cards coming out, like the chances of things might be drawn and stuff like that, or what? Like, what were some things that you saw that where you're like, okay, this is next level?
So he did this one interaction where there was this card that was like double white, and whenever you play it, if your opponent has more lands than you, then you can go look for a plains.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Knight of the White Orchid. I believe that was his name. So he played it on me one time, and I had a powerful creature out. But when he played it on the stack, he like Path to Exile my card. So I went to go look for a land, and then now he got to go look for a land too. So not only did he got rid of my card, he also went and ramped himself too. So I was like, what? Like, he was doing just, you know, weird interactions that I would, because I always like would overvalue certain cards. But then for him, because he was thinking of, you know, 2 or 3 moves ahead, he's like, well, this land is gonna make me do my next move a lot better rather than me conserving, you know, cards. And I think Shane falls into that problem sometimes because he likes to play control. So he would overvalue removal or counter spells over, you know, having like a little creature beat him up for like 12 damage or whatever. And then, I mean, sometimes that's really like the determining factor is like, when do you pull the trigger?
When you start executing.
When do you not?
And get things online and start manipulating the cards
Mm-hmm.
to get things rolling, you know. Well, when you said it was starting to go more esports, how do you feel about that as esports just in general? Me personally, I don't like them. Okay. Well, I play a lot of fighting games, and I like, when it comes to fighting games, I like the whole just the grassroots, hanging out with your friends, tournaments run by, you know, locals and stuff like that. But when it starts becoming like esports and sponsors and wearing jerseys, and look, I'm all about, look, if you want to get your money, If you're within that 1% of people that can do it and get your money, go for it, you know. But I don't want to see it like all fighting game tournaments becoming esports and having to be in massive venues and having to get sponsors and deals and just shilling out for stuff like that. How do you feel about it when it comes to Magic and stuff?
I mean, I'm a little bit more biased in certain ways. Like when it comes to fighting games, you know, I grew up in Mexico. We used to go to the arcade every single day.
King of Fighters?
King of Fighters.
I knew it.
Every single day. You know, not even King of Fighters. We did Tekken. You know, we did Street Fighter. I mean, even Tilt in Pasadena.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
We used to go there. I mean, I used to go there every day.
Yeah.
Just make sure I had a little bit of money. Whoever got on my machine, I was like, well, let's see what this guy's made.
And what game was that? SoCal.
No, we did SoCal. Tekken 5, Capcom, Marvel vs. Capcom, Capcom versus SNK.
Yeah.
And then SNK versus Capcom was my game. Like, that was the one that I was, like, unstoppable with Vega.
Capcom versus SNK?
SNK versus Capcom.
Oh, yes, right. They flip it around.
They flip it around, right.
SNK versus Capcom Chaos or something like that, right? And it was more of a it looked more of the SNK pixelated look. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to some of my friends about it. They're like, I didn't like that game. I don't like how it looks. I'm like, I don't know. I thought it looked wonderful. I thought it looked great. I'm a fan of the pixelated art.
And yeah, it didn't get as popular as Capcom versus SNK, and you can see why, because Capcom vs. SNK had more characters. They had the grooves, which were, you know, really cool because it just gave like a whole different dimension to each character. And then on top of that, it had really likable characters, likable music, you know, everything like that. The other one felt more.
I saw a copy of CVS 2 up there.
Yeah. So the SNK vs. Capcom felt like you were playing Samurai Showdown. And I don't know if you've played Samurai Showdown.
I played the latest one that came out, Samurai Showdown 5. I don't know, but to me it just felt very footsies and very slow.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the SNK versus Capcom kind of was. Like, it wasn't that super crazy hyper combo, and I think at the time you really wanted to have that style because Marvel vs. Capcom was so dominant.
Yeah, just air juggles and air combos and stuff like that, and then calling in assists and stuff. That was badass.
And then, you know, the same thing with Tekken. Like, if you played some Tekken, I mean, if you went
get the
against
juggles, you carry them to the corner, you splat them, and then
and then just do more stuff, and it's just brutal. So those kind of games were getting really popular, where SNK is just like footsies, a little combo here and there, but it wasn't crazy. And I mean, even whenever you talk about the legacy of KOF, I believe KOF 11 or 12, one of those two, those were the kind of combos that you would do in those ones, where you would do like the dream combos and all this like super crazy specials. I mean, that's one of the ones that was the most popular, and it had that kind of combo system.
Yeah, I think they are. SNK is gonna re-release KOF 13, and they're gonna give it like rollback netcode and stuff like that. Because I think 13 is one of the older ones that is very, very popular. I think that's the one that came out like in 1999 or 2002. One of those, I think.
I want to say that one came out later.
Or maybe it was, yeah, like I said, the only reason I know King of Fighters is from playing Capcom versus SNK 2. So I knew some of the rosters and who they are. And then 2 years ago in February, when SNK released King of Fighters 15, I played it and I had a good time with it, but their online was kind of lacking. And after a while, I was just like, okay, I'm getting booted out of matches, or I'm booted out of like lobbies and stuff like that. And I kind of just went back to Street Fighter. But I enjoyed King of Fighters 15, and when 13 comes out with the remake or the rollback netcode, I would try it again.
Well, and that's the thing I love about fighting games is that so many people need to go back to the roots where we had an arcade, we had this little community.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to go over a friend's house and we would play. Then we would go try it out at the arcades. You know, we're able to get like really good like that, and you know, meet new people. I think the esports, what they're doing, they're just keeping people at home, and I'm just not a fan of that, because I really appreciate the interaction and the
100%.
friendship, the friendship building.
Yeah, like last night they had the Street Fighter 6 release. One of my friends, Johnny, he had an event over there at Coral Sword, and we went out there. There was a lot of people there. They had like 5 or 6 PS5 setups, and everybody was playing. And then when they're done playing, they're like, "Hey, anybody want to jump in, or do you mind if I get a match in there?" And I mean, I played like 3 complete strangers, and they were all cool about it, and we just talked about the game and everything. And that offline event like that grassroots feel, that's what I love about fighting games. I mean, well, I love the mechanics of playing the fighting games, but that sense of community when you get to just like meet complete strangers and just talk about like, oh, that's Cammy, that's her new move. Oh yeah, now she has a fast fall and she could do this now, or this is Guile and this is his combo. So yeah, stuff like that. The offline interactions, definitely, I love that.
And not even just that. There's so much more gratification that comes out of beating someone in their face, you know, and it becomes with this rivalry and stuff. And I mean, as long as it's friendly,
Of course,
you know, you don't want to be like, hey,
look, don't get me wrong.
Warriors, come out and play.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I do pop off sometimes when I win, you know, but especially when you play someone and you know they're better than you, but you start making like adjustments and your gameplay starts leveling up. And now you're at the point where it's like, instead of being, you know, 8-2, now it's more like, you know, 6-4 or 5-5, you know, like more even in the matchup. Because sometimes you come across somebody like, ah, this dude just keeps, you know, shutting me down. And then you keep playing and playing. And you start making some adjustments, pick up their nuances. Like, okay. And that's one of the things like I love about fighting games. It's like, I know I have some friends who like playing like MOBAs and like party shooters, BRs and stuff, like in trios and duels, like working with the team on like an Overwatch and stuff. I don't, if I die, it's because I messed up, not because my partner's off playing, I don't know, playing team deathmatch when we're supposed to be doing like, you know, domination or something like that. You know, if I win, I win. If I lose, I lose. Not, I don't depend on other people to play. And that's what I love about fighting games. It's just like everything that you did or lost is on you.
But there's also the etiquette too, like the fighting game etiquette. Like if I would get my ass just completely handed to me, I would go talk to someone that was a little bit like knew a little bit more, and I would just say, hey, you know, what is it about my gameplay or my game style that I'm not seeing?
Yeah.
Right. And they would just say, well, you're losing, you know, the poking game. Like you're supposed to be playing footsies, and instead you're over there trying to do combos when this guy knows, you know, once they start talking about frames like that, that's whenever I was like, oh my God, like I was seeing it one way.
Me too.
These guys are telling me like, hey, well, you're doing 3-frame hits. And
I'm like,
then
frames?
Yeah.
I'm like, frames? Like,
What?
yeah, you know, there's 60 frames in a stream. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Once they started talking about frames, I was like, gee.
There's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal.
They're like, yeah, that's plus. There's plus frames. I'm like, what does that mean plus? That means they get 3 additional frames. So, or you're negative. That means you can't. Yeah, I was like.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you can't throw this punch because, you know, it's going to take 2 frames to come back, and he's going to have, you know, a +2 on you and whatnot. And I was like, oh my God, like that. But once you start learning that stuff, but you wouldn't learn that stuff out of just being on a computer or being in a game and nobody's telling you these things, right? Because now you're thinking that you're just playing and you're like, well, I'm good because I ranked up by myself.
Yeah,
like,
you're developing in a vacuum. You're just playing the computer.
Right.
And after a while, the computer will fall for certain things or play a certain style and just stay in that pattern. But when you play people, they adapt and learn and adjust. Yeah.
And I think that we've lost so much of that out of just completely destroying the community and then just going. I mean, obviously, you can find a community. You can go to several different websites and they're like, hey, what's going on, guys? But it's not the same thing as if they were right there and they're like showing you
100%.
how to do everything.
Yeah, that's another reason why when I see like video games that are like narrative driven, they're just like stories. I call them like, it's just story. And they'll be like, no, it's an actual video game. I'm like, what's the game part? What are you winning? What are you losing? It's a storybook that you get to interact with. I'm like, yeah, well, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, you like playing those kind of games. That's fine. You know, it's just because it's not for me. It doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. That's fine. You want to play Stray, play Stray, you know.
I have enjoyed those too. Like I said, I enjoyed playing Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, like those kind of games.
Oh, those are, no, well, to me, those actually have consequences. Like you could die in Resident Evil, you know, right. You can die in Final Fantasy. I'm talking about games kind of like What Remains of Edith Finch or stuff like the ones. I mean, but the ones that are just like basically just a story, like the Telltale games, stuff like that. What else?
Like the Japanese porn ones, where like, you just go through.
He just plays a little octopus.
Yeah, you're playing the dating sims.
Dating sims. Yeah, I'll have to show you what I mean. But yeah, I mean, there's some
Okay.
games that are just like there's just a story. I'm just like, okay, I get it. That's fine. Well, and I don't know. A lot of my friends tell me like, Rick, you don't like good games. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah, you don't like God of War. You don't like freaking Last of Us. You don't like. I'm like, these games are okay.
Yeah.
They're okay. They're just trying to like, tell you a story, which is fine. I want to play the mechanics. I want to play a role game.
Well, I have a lot of respect for the first God of War, to be honest, because
Like the PlayStation one or the 2018 one?
the PlayStation,
Like the old schooler ones?
the PlayStation
Yeah.
2 one. So there was and I watched like a 3 hour documentary on the game about how this guy single-handedly broke the speedrun record because he started finding all these glitches
Really?
and he started perfecting the glitches as he just kept on playing. And I think the dedication that somebody has to have to just completely keep on looking for these glitches and finding them and being able to skip all
And
these.
exploit them and get around things? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think the first record for a speed run was like 2 hours or something.
Really?
And he made it in like 48 minutes or something.
You ever played Elden Ring?
Mm-mm.
That's one of those FromSoft games. But I remember my friend Ruben's like, dude, I mean, it's a massive game. It's huge. He's like, this dude beat it in 7 minutes. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, check it out. So he starts off the game. He does like a glitch, and it kind of like shoots him fast, and like, and he just exploits the. I mean, on a regular playthrough, this game's gonna take you anywhere between like, I don't know, 20 to 80 hours, just to play. But this guy did it like in 7 minutes, and it was just finding exploits and to get around it, shift, shift, shift. Last boss, do like a special trick, and then game. I'm like, okay, yeah. When you're like breaking the game and finding the exploits, like that's pretty impressive.
The same thing with the Super Mario's.
Yeah.
Super Mario 64.
Some certain bombs will like launch you and break you through a certain platform or something like that.
Yeah, or just being able to do the little hopping backwards and like shooting you through the infinite staircase.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
To find that.
Yeah, to find that, to be the first one to do that. Like,
What do you do? Do you
know.
share it or you keep it?
No, I think you would share it. I
You'd
think
keep
you
it
would
first
share
and then make the records.
it. Right, yeah. You want to be the first one
Be the
before you
first.
get beat. But
Yeah. Yeah, but when it comes to esports though, I'm just like, I see it. It's cool. But at the end of the day, I'd rather just, do the local thing and everybody just hanging out and goofing off. Especially with Street Fighter 6, it just came out. And I think I was talking to a lot of my friends and they're like excited to like play a fighting game again, which is fun because, games now just feel like, oh, you got a battle royale with a season pass? Here, go play. That's not my style.
well, with fighting games, if I had infinite amount of money or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
if I could do it, I would make a world circuit.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what we need. Like we need to have a world circuit in these places where we can have one in New York, one in Florida, like one in Houston, or like
One in
anywhere in
London.
Texas. Like all these places where there's actual circuits.
Yeah.
And then have them come in and play, and then kind of like how they did with Magic, where you would qualify for like this Pro
I'll put
Tour,
the mic right here.
qualify for this GP,
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that. And I believe that would just bring up the community, but then you're having a purpose, like you're having a play towards something, and then once you do that, then you can make money off of it, but without it being esports. Because
Yeah.
I love esports when it comes to the MOBAs, because I feel like it feels like a big interactive thing. I played Smite for a long time,
Yeah.
and Smite had their whole Smite esports, but then you could go see them in like this big tournament that they
In a
have
big old
once
arena and stuff like that.
yeah, once a year. League of Legends or something
That's
similar.
huge. That one's big.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Like LOL's huge. Counter Strike Go, that's a huge one.
Dota was a big one.
Dota, yeah, but Dota started off like as a mod for like Warcraft, I believe, didn't it?
No.
It was like Warcraft, and then like someone's like they made a mod, and then they called it Dota, and then like Riot saw Dota, and they're like, we're gonna make League of Legends
Right.
Something along. I could be wrong. But yeah, fighting games do have that. They do have some world tours. I know Tekken does. Capcom has it, and I think Arxis, who do Guilty Gear, they
Well,
do
we
it.
have Evo.
And Evo, yeah.
Yeah, Evo plays all the fighting games that are hot at the time and
Yeah.
whatnot. But instead of having esports, can we just have a circuit, you know, and have like a bigger pull range instead of just limiting ourselves to these people who maybe want to come out. But
Yeah.
imagine if you would know, because, you know, there's times that you're watching Evo and then people are hyping this guy up. And you're like, I've never even heard of this guy because he's from Korea.
And don't get me wrong. Yeah, you know, I'm telling you, Vic. Yeah, there is a world tour for like for Street Fighter. They started it a couple of years ago, but yeah, like some of the big stuff. Like I'm not like anti esports that I'm gonna hate it and never watch and support it. There's some things I do like when I see some of like the big stuff for like Street Fighter, and when they are at Evo or they're at Combo Breaker or CEO or they're at finals and stuff like that. Okay, that is pretty fun. I do get hype. It's cool. I mean, watching it as a fan is cool. It just, you know, I don't want to do it like, I don't want to become that all the time. But yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm just saying, growing the community
Oh,
as a
yeah.
whole.
Oh, yeah, that part.
Because
Yeah.
I think that we have lost some of it, and there is people that are still playing, and you know, you have like your Justin Wongs that are still playing. You know, I watch his stuff all the time too.
Yeah, he's still making content and stuff
He
like
makes
that.
content is fun, you know. But other than him, I don't really watch anybody else. You know, and you know, Little Majin was one of my favorite Tekken players.
he's
I
Tekken
think
player.
he still does content.
He plays King, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. King.
Yeah, you see the professional players sometimes. I'm just like, God, Jesus Christ. But it's one of those guys that are putting in 10 hours a day, eat, sleep, breathe, fighting games. They're constantly playing, streaming it, getting into matches, breaking it down. This is the frame data. This is the matchup knowledge. When this opponent does this, you should do that. Stuff like that.
But I mean, we do that with Magic too. So it's just,
Yeah, it just depends on what
it
you want to
just
focus your
depends what
energy
you
on,
wanna
right?
focus- yeah, I think is whenever you focus your energy on too much, you're really not doing
You
anything
spread yourself
either.
thin.
Yeah, you're just not doing enough.
What
Because
do you-
there's always going to be someone that's going to be playing a lot more than you
There is,
are.
right?
Yeah, for everything, for every game.
Everybody values their time differently.
Yeah. So
What do you usually do to like focus on things? To
Uh,
relax and unwind?
I really just watch a lot of history documentaries. I'm a huge history nerd.
Like
It's random. Like,
okay,
it's-
all over history. Like maybe like European history, like
No.
colonial America history, ancient history,
all of it.
all of it. You like it?
I just watched
History is one of my favorite subjects too.
I just watched a documentary on Mongolia.
Oh, yeah?
What happened after they took over China, and then what happened after that. and,
After
you know,
Genghis Khan.
Yes.
Did I say it
after
right?
the Khans. Yeah, after the Khans. Because it wasn't Genghis Khan wasn't even like one of the most famous one. I believe Kublai Khan is probably the most famous one.
And that's
the grandson.
okay. Yeah,
So that
it's part of the Khan family line.
because he was the one that was more established, and he wanted to adopt the Chinese, like the Chinese way and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, one of the things that makes him really famous is the fact that Marco Polo, you know, was staying with Kublai during his reign. And you know, Marco Polo wrote to the Europeans about everything that was happening in China, and how it was this, you know, like this crazy thing that he never saw, and how rich these, you know, these Chinese emperors were and whatnot. But you know, after the fall of the Khans,
How did they fall?
basically
They just
They just
spread
had-
themselves thin.
no, they started having like, you know, some kind of like internal conflicts in between everybody. So once some of the Khans were dying, they believed that this person should be Khan, or this person should be
Oh.
Khan, or whatever.
It became a power
And then
struggle, and
It
they
started
just
having like
imploded.
little civil wars between each other, and then after that,
They got
the
weak enough.
Chinese, yeah, the Chinese government, like they always wanted to, you know, get rid of the Mongols anyways. So once they did, they
threw
were
over
able
their
to
shitty
take
walls.
over. Yeah.
South Park.
Take
You remember that
over
episode? Shitty wall.
But one of the things that I didn't know is that, you know, the Mongol population lost about 80% of their citizens because of smallpox. Because whenever the Chinese started invading Mongolia, they started bringing in the smallpox epidemic
Really?
over there, and then they killed off tons and tons
Went
and
through
tons.
the population.
Right, tons and tons of people. And also, most of Mongolia isn't habitable. Like
It's very
there's
arid, isn't it? Kind of like a desert, kind of mountainous.
it's so
Mountainous?
cold. It's so cold and dry
Really?
that you can't really farm anything. So I think they said the population of Mongolia is like 2.2 million, and 1.2 million live in one city.
Really?
And then the other
Are spread across the
are
country.
spread across like over like vast amount of land. So I thought that was pretty crazy, pretty
Jeez.
interesting.
You know, when you said the whole smallpox thing, I always thought it was kind of like, Europeans bringing it to like the natives. And I thought that was like, that's nothing they had to deal with. Smallpox was only there. No, I didn't even think about it being in, the Far East also.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, many people. I believe, if anything, more people died of smallpox in in the Asian countries than they did over in like Europe and
And the Americas,
no, I mean the Americas. The smallpox pretty much killed off
all the
all
natives.
the Native Americans,
Yeah.
like a huge amount of them.
Yeah, because you always hear stories about the ancient civilizations like in the Aztecs and the Olmecs and all that, and then they came back to after visiting the first time they came back, and they're like the cities were all abandoned and stuff like that.
Well, at least from what I know, so what happened with some of these other Native American civilizations, immigration is pretty much what killed them off. So let's say that the Mayans were spread out from from Yucatan all the way to like El Salvador or whatever, like over Guatemala, Belize, like all those places, right? So I know that there was like a really big bad drought that happened somewhere in the Salvador area. So what happened is that whenever that happened, the Mayans would just move to the next city. So then each city had enough resources to self-sustain. But then whenever you have an influx of people migrating to the next town, and then their resources started getting low, and then all of those people started going to the next one. So they just like
Constantly
kept shifting to try to get to to one place where they could all live, but then they just overpopulated all these cities and
You
just
ate up all the resources.
right. So
Decimated.
And then that's how the Mayan civilization basically went extinct.
Really?
Yeah, just from shifting, like just immigration kept killing it, and not being able to
Sustain.
sustain. Yeah, because they just had enough resources for their own people in that certain town.
It
or
makes you
whatever.
think if they didn't even have enough resources back then for that amount of people. Like, do you think we have it now for today? I mean, we're all dependent on grocery stores. If something happened where grocery stores just had to shut down or something like during COVID, and that became like super bad, that'd have been like because first of all, I mean, I got a little garden outside with peppers, but I can't live off of that. It's not sustainable. You know what I'm talking about?
So, I mean, we're gonna have to talk about a whole completely different subject if we want to go into that kind of economical standpoint. The United States has almost no like sustainability. It's very, very different places. I mean, Texas is one of them. I believe there's a few other states that have their own cattle and they can sustain because of their own, products. But not all of them are like that.
Yeah,
I mean, some states don't even have water.
Yeah, I think like Nevada basically just has a little bit of that water river that comes into the bottom part, and that's like the only like major water
California
source.
doesn't have water.
Really?
California has to get water from Seattle, I believe, from like Oregon in that area. They
Really?
have to actually, import water through. Well, like that was one of the biggest problems that California had, where
Wow.
they didn't have enough water.
Jesus Christ.
So, I mean, even their power sources, like their power source, water.
That's
just
keep the big
anything
city
like-
up and running.
Some of the biggest industries that deliver meat to the United States is Brazil and Australia. So we're not even like farming our own meat. Like we have everything is an export, an import. I mean,
Yeah.
So if
right, was
something does happen
to the supply chains.
to the supply chains, then
We're
you know
screwed.
we're just gonna run out of things to eat because
Yeah.
we're just not
There's a lot of us.
self-sustaining. Yeah, I mean, our energy doesn't even come from the United States. A lot of it
It's
doesn't
imported.
is imported. Mexico also exports tons of goods to the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, produce, meats as well.
Because that's something I told Mikhail. I was like, if something ever happens, it's like I don't know how to freaking hunt an animal. I was like, I don't know how to freaking.
You'll figure it out.
You would figure it out,
You'll
right?
figure it out,
When you
yeah,
survive
yeah.
and you're pressed, and I mean, you always see the survivor shows like Walking Dead and stuff like that. When society collapses, everybody becomes free for all, or live as little tribes and groups of people instead of living in these massive sprawled out cities and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, all of that is fake.
That's true. I mean, that's true. That's true. It's a TV show.
Because if it does happen where there's gonna be no humans watching out for stuff that we desperately need to, like for instance, power plants. If there's no humans to contain the power plants,
To run it.
then they would just cause massive meltdowns, and then those meltdowns don't stop. They just keep on melting down until they reach the core of the earth, and everything would just explode.
What are we talking about? Like nuclear reactors and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because whenever they have these things running, they heat up so much. That's what causes a meltdown. That's why whenever the meltdown happened in Japan after the tsunami. Yeah, I don't know if you remember. It was
Fukushima.
2012.
I think. Yeah, they had the tsunami in it. Yeah.
Right, they had the tsunami, and then everybody from all over the world went to Japan right away because they knew that if the meltdown kept on going, then potentially could destroy the earth. So that's why these meltdowns are so dangerous, and that's why everybody, no matter who you are, they go in and try to.
You think it's
contain it.
possible it could melt down the core of the Earth?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you think about all of the nuclear power plants that we have, if they all do it at the same time, then
It'll come down to the into
just-
the core.
yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's
Yeah, so
interesting.
if a zombie apocalypse would happen and you have all these nuclear power plants, like we all would be screwed. So we wouldn't
That's
even
true. It's the
we wouldn't
fantasy.
even get to like
Shoot 'em in the head.
survive and kill zombies. Like nah, we would just
Like I
all
can't have a
die.
crossbow and shoot them. No, Rick, you can't do that. Wow.
Yeah.
You took the fun out of that.
Yeah, so yeah, all
You're not fun at parties, are you, Vic?
all-
No, you're
no.
great at parties.
Well,
It's until they get serious, then you're like, okay, hold on, let me break it down for you.
Yeah.
This is gonna happen.
if people just want to have fun, I'll have fun.
Yeah.
but,
But when it
they
gets
wanna ask
serious,
me- yeah, they want to ask
like
me
deep-
super questions.
They
like,
show like,
like, okay, guys, I don't know if you're ready for this.
how often does that happen?
Let's see. So I just went to my friend's like little party, after we got the news that everything was happening. So we all got together. We went over to his widow's house or what and whatnot. We kept it all about him.
Yeah.
We just talked about experiences. What were the experiences that we liked? We had a bottle of tequila. We only had one shot glass because he didn't really drink that much. So, we just grabbed a bottle of tequila. I made everybody come around, tell them one story that they really liked about, him or what made you guys friends. And I would have everybody take one shot. So
okay.
everybody came around, we had about 12 of us. And I mean, the whole night, we really didn't talk about anything else other than, some of the best times that
The
we had
memories
with
of
him,
your
the
friend.
memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess it was kind of like the theme of like I'm gonna go in there and be like, man,
So
society.
you guys know what's going on with the next election.
Like
Yeah.
the MCU is just destroying, the Marvel universe. I'm not gonna go in there and just like ruin
Yeah,
the party. Or,
To play to the crowd. You
Yeah,
feel the room.
yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
exactly. Yeah,
Like-
you're hanging out with your friends and something serious is like the loss of a friend happened. Yeah, you're not gonna go in there and be like, what's wrong with kids today and what they're watching. Yeah, you don't do that.
yeah, it's like, did you know that Biden was eating ice cream after the massacre that occurred?
I saw him. He took a fall recently. I'm like, oh, doesn't look good.
Who?
Biden. He took a fall somewhere. I forgot what it was. I saw on Twitter, but I think
Like he fell?
Yeah, he fell.
Oh, okay.
Like-
I was like, or it took someone.
No, he
like a fall guy for something.
No, he no, he actually just fell. And I was like, oh, that's our commander in chief. That represents us. Wow. Someone put him in there. It is what it is.
Like I said, I don't even want to talk about some of these guys because like, I want to save some content, but there.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there's that one of my favorite conspiracy theories that I don't see anybody talking about. I call it the Dave Chappelle conspiracy theory. And there's an interview that Dave Chappelle did where he was talking about meeting one of the princes from the
Middle East.
from England.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that he said in the interview that Chris Tucker had called him and was like, "Hey, Dave, I heard that you were going to be back in town. You think I can bring some friends over, get some tickets?" And he said, like, "Man, you're Chris Tucker. Like, you can do whatever you want. If you want to come through, come through." So he said that whenever he did his show, he was looking for Chris Tucker, and he saw him, and he was with the mayor of San Francisco at the time, who he says that looks like Christian Bale. So he was calling him Batman. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and then Chris Tucker were all there, right? They were in the VIP room. They were talking, having a good laugh and whatnot. Well, Kamala Harris says, "Hey, man, I think one of my college buddies is fixing to become nominated for the presidency." And that was Barack Obama. So she calls him on the phone and hands it to Dave and says, "Hey, Dave, can you just tell him, something inspiring or something that will like maybe help him?" And he was just like, "Hey, man, they're coming after you. Make sure you duck and stay out of these like free spaces." So he told them some joke basically, right? And then after that, well, Dave Chappelle felt so strongly about Barack Obama, he wanted to go see him in the Democratic like election or whatever, where they were gonna pick their representative. Well, he was walking and he said he saw the mayor of San Francisco or whatever, but he didn't remember his name, so he was just like, "Hey, Batman," because they wouldn't let him go through like security and whatnot. He was just like, "Hey, Batman, help, Batman," and like he turns around, the mayor turns around and goes like, "Dave?" He was like, "What are you doing here?" Like, hey, so he pulled him away from security, and he was like, "Well, I'm here to meet the prince." And Dave Chappelle thought he was talking about Prince.
The artist from
the artist,
Prince? Okay,
right?
yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, I love Prince. Like, yeah, let's go see him." Well, when he goes see him, he meets Prince, like the Prince, like one of the, I forgot.
Prince William's Prince.
I think it was William or whatever.
I forgot.
And he was like, "Hey, how's it going, my guy?" And like, he's like, "Well, I didn't know that you're not supposed to touch royalty." So I'm over there giving him a bro hug, and like, his bodyguards are like, "Hey, you can't touch him like that or whatever." So the thing is that all of these people, or some of them at least, were part of the Epstein list. That were there
on this little island and stuff.
Right.
Lolita Express.
The prince was there. Like some of these other people were there, and I just think it's funny that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are hanging out with each other. Like, this is 10 years before they even got nominated.
Before they got in a race.
Before they get into presidency. So this whole thing is scripted. I mean, you want to call it a coincidence, but I think Dave Chappelle has been like dropping us breadcrumbs about this crap. And if you watch a lot of his interviews, he drops breadcrumbs.
Really?
He has another Oprah interview, like he's with, whenever she's telling him like, "Hey, you went to Africa to get, mental health and all this stuff." And then she's like, "And you were crazy, right? Like, you were on drugs, right?" And she just kept on trying to egg him on. And Dave, very calm and collected, was like, "No, I was not on drugs. Yes, I turned down this stuff." But, he keeps on saying how he turned down all this money because these people that were very influential wanted him to speak about a certain narrative. And he did not want to have, let people have control over the things that he wanted to say. So that's why he turned down the deal. But then he said that people started, coming after him and looking at it. And I mean, he even talks about Martin, that, Martin went crazy and he started being like, "They're coming after me. They're coming after me." So he's trying to say that there's these entities. I don't know who they are. They're what
trying
they
to
are.
spin it to make it look.
They're trying to get.
Oh, he's just crazy. He's on drugs. Don't mind paying attention.
No, but they're trying to get these stars to do something because they control the narrative of our society, right? And the moment that these people don't want to do it, they start getting in trouble.
They can't get
They start
controlled.
getting silenced. They start, I mean,
Getting censored.
right. And then
Yeah.
that's why Dave Chappelle ran away. Now, Oprah is trying to say, oh, well, that's because you're crazy or you're on drugs.
Of course.
Or she's trying to diminish what he's saying as facts by saying that, well, maybe you weren't really right in the head.
Yeah.
And that's when Dave Chappelle says, if I wanted to get right in the head, why would I go to Africa to receive treatment rather than stay in the United States and be with better doctors?
Yeah, in the first world
But
country.
he really just wanted to get out of sight. You
Yeah.
know, make sure that he was trying to get out of these, whatever these influences are.
Yeah, I mean, and you see it all the time, right? How many times do you see a commercial and they have like celebrity speaking and they have a certain mindset or certain ideology they want to push on you and stuff like that? And it's like, okay, I get it. I mean,
I
you
mean,
know.
like I said, I hate going back to this like MCU stuff, but whenever the Ant-Man movie was fixing to get premiered, they were pushing for this Majors guy, and like everybody was like, "Oh my God!" I forgot his first name, but they were like, "Oh, Majors!" They were like, "Kang, he's so good, he's so charming." I mean, I didn't think he did much better than like, you know, everybody else
Yeah.
or whatever, but they were just pushing the narrative that this is the guy, this is gonna be like the
Yeah.
next star, you know, the
The
next
next up and coming.
the next
Yeah.
up and coming. It's like, what? It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I just think it's funny that they were pushing for the villain to be the star. Like, why is Kang the star? Why isn't it Ant-Man who's the star? Or, you know,
Do you think it's because he's a person of color?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, you get canceled if you say things like
Right.
that. So let's just not say that. I'm just trying to say how the narrative is that you want to push for a person who's the villain to be the star of the movie. It's like, what happened to rooting for Thor or for Captain America?
main heroes,
or
the Avengers.
Yeah, the Avengers is like, shouldn't we be, you know, making them the stars of the show?
The
rather
heroes
than-
and heroines,
the
yeah.
yeah, and rather than the villains. Like, I mean, I love me some good villains. That you can't have a hero without a good villain.
For sure.
Like, that's 100%. I mean, that's why people love the Joker. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's a relatable
always
villain,
nuts.
but he's, you know, he's crazy. And he just makes Batman look better.
You know who I like as a villain? Homelander
Oh,
from The Boys.
yeah.
Like the guy who plays him, I think his name's Anthony Starr. The way he plays Homelander, I feel like this guy could kill me at any second.
Oh,
He just says, and that's the like I don't feel if I was in the same room with Homelander, I could probably die right now because that's just the craziness that this actor can pull off. And I just, as a villain, I like that a lot. And I really enjoy The Boys. At first, I was thinking, great, another superhero show, but it's like more dark and dirty and showing you what happens if they just become corrupted by media and corrupted by corporations and are just kind of here to shill things because you know they always talk about oh your approval ratings are up by 6%, you know 6 something percent points, or you need to do a deal with this and endorse that and stuff like that.
I mean, Prime has been throwing bangers at our face, you know, without having to push like too many narratives, and I think that's kind of like the stuff that I really like. It's not that they're pushing a narrative; it's the fact that they're pushing a narrative without any substance. Like, there's no origin story. There's no like you can relate to these characters that are just thrown in your face and. Like
And just
you're
celebrate
supposed
them.
to, yeah, you're just
Accept
supposed
it
to
as how it is.
accept
Like
it.
how is he this way, or what happened, or what? Yeah, I remember last time we were hanging out a couple weeks ago, and you said you were with your friend, and you're like, yeah, we're not watching the same thing. You're watching one thing, I'm watching something else, and I thought about that. That's been resonating in my head. And there's some times where I'm like with Mikhail, I'm like, we're not watching the same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
it really is like
and
that.
and that's been like stuck in my head. And I'm like, I'm glad you pointed it out
Pointed
because
it
you're
out,
right.
yeah.
Because I'm like, yeah, we're not seeing the same thing. Some people see this and they're like, oh yeah, it's cool. But I'm like, don't you see like the little subtle little suggestions that they're throwing out there? You know, like socialism and being effeminated is okay, and or emasculated. I'm sorry.
Yeah, emasculating a
Yeah.
guy is okay. You know, girl boss always being
Hashtag
right.
girl boss. Like, yeah, like girl boss. I mean, isn't boss just boss?
And no, I mean it's just throwing it out there for no reason makes no sense. I think that's the biggest problem. Like, if you show me how she became a girl boss, like if you give me the origin story of like, hey, she had to overcome like all of this stuff, and you know, but like real relatable stuff. Like, don't just throw this guy who's like a complete douchebag to her, and then
And
she
they
had
do
to
that.
overcome the douchebag, and it's like
This
that's
guy- yeah.
probably not even real, you know? Like these people just don't exist sometimes, especially now. Like we haven't had a real solid douchebag in a long time. Like I haven't met any like complete douchey people since the bro era
Well,
of the 2000s. Like
Well, I do like it when they catch like like not celebrities, but like anchormen, like who like get caught off a mic, like Bill O'Reilly or Christian Bale, who's just like an asshole sometimes. Like, so this guy is an asshole.
yeah, but I
Okay.
mean they're the old schools.
Yeah, they're the old
They're
school
the old schools,
guys. Will be
like-
guys. You know, this is locker room talk, and they do whatever. Like,
But when you have people, like for instance, do you think that like Jordan Peterson is a douchebag?
I personally don't think so. I think he has some
I
he has some opinions that are different, and I think that's awesome. Just kind of like Andrew Tate. Like I don't 100% believe everything he says because some things are kind of like okay, but the message he pulls across sometimes is like it makes you think. Cause like I think I saw like my friend, my coworker Anthony. He loves to put Andrew Tate shorts on his Instagram, and there was one where somebody was asking Andrew Tate like, "What's the fast and easy way to get abs?" Andrew Tate's like, first of all, look at your question. You're saying, how do I get something fast and easy? If it was fast and easy, everybody would have it. You have to work hard to get it and earn it. I'm like, that's how you should like see things, stuff like that. Like that kind of mentality, to go out there and be a go-getter and be hungry and hustle. Like, okay, I do like that. But then there's some parts where you see them like, women's aren't nothing. I'm like, well, I mean, let's think.
Well, I think
hold on.
I think they also some
It's
of
a
these short
persona, too.
clips, some of these short clips, like they take some of the stuff that he says, like out of context.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
he might
yeah.
have started that way and then moved on to something.
That's true.
And then, but whenever you're looking at the shorts, you're not really looking at the whole podcast.
At the full conversation,
Right, because
yeah.
I've heard, I've watched like a 2-hour podcast where he was explaining different things. He was explaining, how he got money and what it is to have money and what it is to like look at things like in the Matrix and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff that he says is not crazy or irrational. As a matter of fact, the only times that I ever hear him say crazy irrational stuff is whenever he's been drinking Hennessy with somebody for a while, and then
We all do
you
that.
you might get a little like over the top.
I think we all do that. Done
And
that.
I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see how that.
I drank a lot of beers once to talk shit.
I mean, I do it all the time. Like after a while, I'm just like, fuck this Matrix. Like the money's fake, everything's fake.
It's all stimulation.
Yeah, like everything's fake. So I mean, like I said, I follow philosophy too, like ancient history.
That's
ancient
something I
philosophy.
want to get into too. Also, I know Joe Rogan had this one guest, Ryan Holloway, and he just talks about the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, and the way
Right, Stoicism.
Yeah, Stoicism, and I just find that so fascinating. Like the mindset of someone ancient time ago that you could still apply it to today, and just like, all right, if something pisses you off, just think about it in a different way, and then go about your way. Don't let it defeat you. What you see in here in your mind's eye, your reality is what you portray out there. If you feel you see shitty and are shitty, it's just because something inside your head doesn't make you feel like you have to like work what's in here and how you project and how you see the world. Because if it's constantly just in a bad place, I mean, what does that say about you? I mean, and that's happened to me before. I've been in like in depressions and slumps, and I gotta realize, look, Rick, this isn't how the world is. You gotta like, don't think about it this way and think about it this in a better way, because at the end of the day, carrying that is gonna do you no good. You know what I'm talking about?
I mean, that's like I said, these are subjects that usually get me in a lot of trouble because, people like, especially like Andrew Tate. Like Andrew Tate doesn't believe in depression. Andrew Tate believes in lack of motivation, because if you have a purpose, you have no time to be depressed.
That's true. You're too busy to
like
get your goal.
you're too busy to be depressed, right? Because you have motivation. You're waking up. You're going to the gym. You're doing things. You have an itinerary. Like you're doing blah 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 blah. You're getting everything done. By the time you get home, you're already tired. You go to sleep. You
Next
don't
day.
have time to think, right? So I think depression comes with the ability to think about what's making you sad.
Yeah.
But if you never have a chance to have the ability to be sad, then how would you like be depressed? I'm not gonna say that this is true for everybody, because obviously there's people who
do
while
have
they're
depression.
doing something,
Or are
they just
depression.
feel sad, in their head or whatever. Or like I've met plenty of people who were bipolar that they could be super happy 1 minute, and then the next minute they're already, you know, like hating
Yeah.
themselves, hating you, hating everything. So I have seen it like this shift in you know, their mentality and
Yeah.
stuff. So I know that those things are true, but I believe at least what I consider what he was trying to say was that depression, for the most part, if like you can combat it by just being active and having a purpose and having a goal.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody should have a goal. Hey, this is what I'm working towards. Like, stop being stagnant. Stop not trying to go to the gym. You know, stop going out and spending all your money on booze. Like, stop spending money on drugs. Stop spending your money on girls. You know, be able to like make a goal, go towards that goal, and then try to do, like, you know, because then you'll be busy. You're busy all the time.
You're set on you're focused on your goals and what to do something, and you
Right.
don't have time to, you know, get stuck in your own head. And that's my issue. And sometimes I just get trapped in my own head and get anxiety. And a lot of times when I exercise, I look at the kettlebells. I'm like, dude, I do not want to deal with those damn kettlebells. But then I start moving them. I pick them up and I start breaking a sweat. I'm like, you know what? And then when I finish, you know, I spend my anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes even an hour of exercising. I finish. I'm like, I take a shower. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I did that. Because if not, I would have just been sitting there, just reflecting on what's in my head and stuff like that. And that does me no good. You know, I'd rather just pick up the kettlebell, listen to the timers, maybe put some music on or an anime and watch that while I'm exercising. And then when I'm done, I feel a lot better. And I think people forget that. I think, you know, being physically active helps a lot. Now, you're right. And there are some people that just have chemical imbalances in the head and need help. Of course, they're out there, you know. But I think that doing something, to focus on something and getting your mind on just focusing on one thing helps a lot.
Yeah, like I said, there's people that do have, you know, like actual problems.
100%.
They don't know what's happening. I mean, they're probably like the most lost because they don't know what's happening. Like, they might be doing what we're saying, like they're going to the gym, you know, they're active, they're doing all these things, and they just can't, you know, shake it off. But, you know, for everybody else who's, you know, wakes up, is laying in bed, and they're just like, man, I really should go to the gym. But then they're giving each other 50 excuses why not to do it.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh, it's too
but
far.
It's too far, and then I have to like.
I gotta
do
get gas in the
this.
car. I gotta get gas in the car.
It's like, and then I have work
I
later.
gotta go work later. Yeah, and I haven't done the laundry yet. Yeah.
I think most people could come up with at least 15 reasons why not to do anything.
100%. Yeah.
And probably more. I mean, you can give yourself infinite amount of reasons.
Sure.
But they also never give themselves the reasons why they should. And I think that's the problem that
You're right.
most people have. Is like, instead of finding the reasons why doing something, they always look at reasons why not to do something.
Yeah.
And then that's, I mean, it happens with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it happens with everybody. I mean, at work, sometimes I look and I'm like, man, maybe I should pick that tray up. And then I'm just like, fuck those people. So, like, you know, like,
Me
so
too.
I always give myself reasons not to do something when I should be giving myself reasons to do something. It's like, hey, this is going to look good on me. This is going to go look on, you know, my friend or like whoever is with me. But instead, we just give each other reasons not to do something.
And you know, that time I work, sometimes I see this packages, like, I don't want to do it. Like, look, Rick, you're going to have to deliver it. Do it now, get it over with. Like,
Right.
At the end of the day, you're gonna have to do it. Just do it now. I'm like, okay. Yeah. You know, sometimes I gotta like prep talk
Yeah,
myself,
yeah,
and
yeah.
motivate myself.
You're like, hey, man, you got to
I gotta do this. Yeah. We're talking about like people needing help, like with medications and depression and stuff like that. That's another thing too. Like when you say people don't know if they're sick or need actually help, it's like getting on medication and like trusting and be like, oh, you should take this. And this is going to have side effects. So you take this for the side effects. And then for those side effects, you take this. And I'm not saying like I'm anti-medicine, but I feel like I try to, before I have to do anything with medicine, try to just like maybe eat better, maybe sleep more, maybe exercise, try to like, do something physically on my end.
Stop
Yeah.
for a minute.
Let's take a little break and we'll come right back. Unpause recording. Done. See?
All right. So going back to the mental health question, and one of the reasons why, I like to talk about this is because I went through something where I had to get medicated. At the time, I had lost my fiance, my job, my car, my apartment. I had lost everything. It had happened really fast, really quick within
Just one after
two or-
another.
yeah, 2 or 3 months. Oh, my eyesight. That's whenever I started wearing the hardshell contacts and everything. And every once in a while, like even whenever I was at work, I felt like I couldn't breathe, and then my lips would get blue, and I started turning pale, and I didn't know what was happening. I mean, I was just working. It's not like I was thinking about it. So I got rushed to the hospital. They took me to the ER. Another day, I was up at work. We were coming back into town. We were in Lufkin, driving back to Pasadena. And man, like out of nowhere, I started shaking really bad, started turning blue. And like I said, it's not like I was thinking about it. I was drinking the water.
Yeah.
They rushed me to the hospital again. And I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like I could not tell what was going on. Every night it was the same thing. Right before I went to sleep, just started feeling like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do anything. I used to grab NyQuil, like the liquid death flavor, and just chug NyQuil to put me to sleep.
At that time, what did you think was going on with you? Anxiety attacks?
I mean, people call them that, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, like whatever they are. But
What did you call them?
I mean, they were just happening. They were just happening. So I didn't know what to do. Eventually, my friend's grandma was just like, "Hey, if you need me to take you to see a psychiatrist, talk to him, tell him what you feel, like what's going on." So I'm thinking that this is like a medical emergency, right? But I'm talking to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist wants to talk to me about my past and all this other stuff. Is like, man, I don't think my past traumas is like what's like triggering this thing that's happening. So I'm thinking that I have like a physical problem, not a mental problem. So
hold on. How old were you at the time? Do you remember?
I was 21.
Okay.
I think I just
still
had
very young.
21.
Still very young. Yeah. Okay.
So, but I don't know how we can do this or how it can even happen, but the differences between having to separate physical and mental, right? And if anything can be fixed through either or, because they prescribed me to Xanax. I was on Buspar at the same time with the Xanax, and then they had given me something like Prozac or something like later on, because the Buspar wasn't really helping. So I was taking the Buspar every day.
So Xanax is kind of like
It's whenever
dulls you and kind of brings you down.
So if I was having an episode, then I would take the Xanax to like calm down the episode and then just kind of relax.
Did it work?
It did work, but then again, you get addicted to Xanax, and that's also not a good thing, because now once you're off the Xanax, you have more panic attacks than if you didn't.
You're shifting one thing and just convert one problem and converting it to something else.
Right.
Kind of, right?
Kind of. I mean, it seemed to me like I ended up with the same problem, but now I have a drug addiction, as opposed to just having the problem and not being.
I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry, but I shouldn't laugh.
No, I mean, but it's crazy that that's just how it works. Like you become accustomed to this chemical or this drug and whatnot, and now you just have to have it. So you went in with a problem, but now you're coming out with the same problem and broke, because you're having to go see the psychiatrist, once or twice a month. Then you're having to.
Did you feel that the psychiatrist helped at all? Talking about your stuff?
No, not really. Because, at least for me, I tell this to a lot of people. I can walk into any room and tell you what's wrong with the room. 100%. Like I can say,
like with the people in the room.
With the people in the room,
Okay.
with the room itself. Like whenever I go do a job or and whatnot, they're always like, "Well, Victor, what's the problems that we have here?" It's like, I only need to be here 2 hours to pinpoint where the problems are. how we did at the restaurant. I went in the restaurant. I'm like, there's no way this is not a front
Yeah.
for something else, right? It took
You know, when you brought that up, I was like, what is he looking that I'm not? Because you're obviously, because, you know, my mindset was, you know, Vic and Shane, I haven't seen, it's been a while since I've seen Shane, a couple of months, and it's been even longer since I've seen you, right? So I don't even know if you were the same person I knew way back then. And it wasn't like we were super close or anything. We always just kind of hung out during Magic, right? So, you know, just sitting down and just like, oh, having a conversation with friends I haven't seen in a while. And you're over here kind of like looking at everything and like, why are there so many people here or not enough people here? And why are the prices like this?
Yeah. So, and whenever I go do the consultations, when I was doing the consultations, one of the things I would tell the owners, like the restaurant owners, anybody, you can pay anybody to come in here and tell you what your problem is. The real people that you should be hiring is the people that recognize the problem and can give you the solutions to the problem. So that's the real thing. So for me, a therapist is just telling me what's wrong with me, but I'm like, I already know what's
Something's wrong with me.
That's why I came.
Yeah.
Right. When you're not giving me solutions, then why am I even paying you? Because I already know what's wrong with me. Like I can tell you all my flaws and, you know, all the little ticks and things that, you know, might trigger me. What are things that I don't want to hear? What are the things that, you know, I might get like disappointed with or anything like that. I know myself very well, right? But if you don't tell me how to fix my problems, then there's no point of me even coming here. It's basically where I was at. Like,
and especially when the answer becomes, well, take drugs,
right?
Take something, and then check on it later. It's like, what are we doing here? We're just trading in one thing for another, and now I have a dependency or have side effects. And
I mean, some of these drugs too, they just make you feel like nothing, like no empathy, no apathy, no
dull.
nothing. Yes, you're just completely. I mean, I didn't even take them. Like after a while, I was like, nope. Like, This is not like I didn't feel nothing. Like I felt like I wanted like I remember it was raining one time, and I was sitting next to the window, and I just had my hand like this, and I looked outside, and I was like, it looks so fun outside. Like I want to go, but I don't want to go at the same time. Like I wanted to do something, but then I had no motivation to do it.
Yeah.
And it was like that. Like people would be like, hey, you want to come hang out? It's like, I want to go, but I also just kind of want to stay.
Yeah.
And I ended up just like not doing anything, just being a zombie.
And you know, I do that sometimes. And that's me without drugs.
Yeah.
That happens to me. I was like, my wife's like, you want to do something? I'm like, nah, I kind of just want to chill here. I kind of want to do this. And the next thing I know, like, I just sat there and did nothing. I'm just like, and I'm trying to be better about that. Trying.
Yeah.
That's all you can do, right?
Well, I mean, you can force yourself.
Or actually do it. Yeah, right. Yeah. I take that back. Yeah. Trying is just kind of like half-assed. No, do something, dummy.
Force yourself, or you can have someone pep you up, you know, telling your significant other, hey, if I ever say or do these things, like, just tell me no.
Right.
And
snap me out of it.
Yeah, you like snap me out of it. Just say, hey, don't allow me to have these bad traits.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you can recognize what those traits are, then I believe that, you know, you could self-improve a little bit better, and then being able to hold a little bit of accountability over it.
I think you're right. I think that's the way to look at it. Yeah. I know I'm my self worst enemy. You know, I get stuck in my head and just start berating, like, this ain't good enough. What are you doing? You should have done something better. And I think that's the part where I got to learn how to tune out and just be like, all right, it's okay. Just go with the flow. You're all right. Don't worry about it. Have fun in the now. Because if you just keep stressing about what's going to happen in 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks from now, months from now, like, what does that do? No amount of anxiety is going to change what's going to happen. Whatever happens, right? I got to remember that.
That's I mean, like I said, when I first went to live with my friend Joey, I was already in a pretty bad state of mind, but all of it was made, like, I was making my own problems bigger because of my lack of, I wasn't doing anything to self-improve whatsoever. I was blaming myself for everything, but then not taking accountability for anything, and then just letting it go, just letting it pass. And that's the really hard one to try to do by yourself. And I think that's where, people want to self-diagnose themselves with with depression. I'm gonna say self-diagnose because it's not like they're seeing anything, but they're just like, I'm depressed. It's like, well, I mean, bad stuff happens all the time. Like, just because something bad happens, like, you can't just automatically say that you're depressed, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can feel sad, or you can,
Which happens.
yeah, feel let down, but like clogging it, I think that's a scapegoat now, right? Like, we have a word that we can use when we're just not feeling like doing anything and we're sad, and we call it depression.
It's just self-diagnosed.
Yeah, it's self-diagnosed. Nobody else tells you. It's just like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here, slam back a 12-pack, and then call myself depressed so people who don't tell me I'm a drunk.
Right.
It's like, no, you're a drunk.
You're fucking drunk. That you're sad.
Yeah.
Get up, fatty, and do something. Yeah.
Right. You're just a sad drunk. You're not
just a sad
depressed.
drunk. You're not
Like,
depressed.
Can you
Yeah.
please just, get up and do something.
Yeah. I think people kind of do that. I know I've done that before. Like, I think I'm depressed. I'm like, wait, Rick, are you depressed or are you just having down? Are you just kind of down? Like, maybe,
Right.
maybe I'm just down. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in a rut and got to change. I mean, is there like a technical term for depression? Maybe there is. I don't know it.
Well, I mean, let's say,
Yeah, you can't be depressed, right? But I'm sure if it lasts like in the spans of weeks or months, if you're in a state of mind where you're just constantly just down and just out of it, that's probably depression, right? If you're just like, oh man, my team lost, that sucks. I had a bad day at work. Oh, that's not, you just had a shitty day.
well, let's say your girlfriend breaks up with you, right? You've been going out with her for a couple of years. So obviously you have some kind of like codependency. Let's say you went to go out with her every Friday.
Yeah.
Every Friday you went to go out to eat at a certain restaurant. It was both of your guys' restaurant. And then you used to go to the movies on Saturdays. And, that was a cool thing too. It's like, hey, what movie are we going to watch or whatnot? And you have this routine.
These rituals.
And then once that routine stops and then you don't have the same friends maybe anymore. Like, some people even stop talking to their friends because of the girlfriend. And the girlfriend the same thing, stops talking to her friends or vice versa. Then you're just breaking away from this routine, and the whole routine has to change. Now, I think that's whenever people self-diagnose their depression so much more, because they have to accommodate to like a new routine.
Right, yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that you're not sad. Like, obviously you're sad. You're losing everything by losing a partner. You're losing the sense of stability that most people crave.
Yeah.
Because I don't care who you are, but I can tell you right now, if you're used to eating the same omelet at Denny's for 20 years and all of a sudden Denny's changes the omelet, everybody's going to be like, well, what?
How's
Like,
my omelet?
why would you change my omelet?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? Like, I love this omelet, right? It's like the same thing that happens with a relationship. Is like, you're used to having certain things that this person does for you. And you don't really know how valuable these things are until it's gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what? I gotta buy toilet paper? I didn't fucking
I gotta go do groceries
I gotta go
now?
to groceries now? Like shit.
Don't get single.
It's like, oh man, I fucking ran out of hair product. I know that you guys don't, not everybody
Hair product?
has that problem, but for me, it's like,
You have a lot of hair.
Devastating. I'm like,
What do you do with your
wow.
hair? Oil?
Oh no, I have to do all kinds of crap. Yeah.
Just to keep it looking nice.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Oh, thanks.
You've had it you've always had long hair since I've known you.
Yeah. I haven't cut my hair since 2010, and that was after. Yeah, after you, because believe we were hanging out back 2005.
Probably.
Like 2005 to maybe like 2008, 2009. Because I know I wasn't even 21 yet
We started
when
hanging
we
out.
first started hanging out. I was already drinking, but I wasn't 21. Because Travis always had the booze.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, well,
Oh, sorry. I'm trying not to name drop, but it's just kind of hard.
you're so fancy. You're so connected.
It was like, yeah.
No, well, I remember meeting Shane when I used to have a Madness deck, and that was whenever Odyssey came out. So whatever year Odyssey came out, that's when I first kind of met Shane, or within close to that timeline. I remember playing Shane's like, you discard Arrogant Worm, play with the Madness Cause. At the end of his turn, and then it's like, my turn, Wonder, swing with Arrogant Worm. Like, you can't swing with Arrogant Worm. I'm like, yeah, I have.
It's
Like,
flying.
you haven't controlled him since the last turn. Like, no, the rule is
Oh,
you have
he's
to,
that.
as long as you control him from the beginning of your turn, you can attack with him. He's like, it doesn't have haste, man. It doesn't matter. Take that.
You're like, yeah, just take it.
Take it. He's like, you won? Yeah. Going back to the whole getting better and things, like, when did you start getting better? 'Cause I remember you said you had to, you just stopped taking all the drugs that they prescribed to you. Yeah. What made you realize, okay, this ain't doing me no good?
No, that didn't actually happen for a long time, to be honest. Because so after the whole thing, I had this new philosophy at the time, which was just not caring.
Mm.
And after I stopped caring about many things, then I feel like the panic attacks started going away, but they never fully went away. They just
They're always there.
They were always kind of there,
But not as sudden?
not as much as consistent as how
strong.
they were.
Mm.
But like as you know, when I think about it, is the fact that I called one of my best friends. I said, "Hey, come live with me. Come move in with me. I don't care. You know, we're gonna try to get everything together, and then you and me will figure it out." So I called in my friend, and my friend gave me this whole sense of something that I needed to do every day.
Mm.
Like we would wake up, we had a routine, make food. You know, this certain time we would watch a movie. This certain time we would go do this. This certain time we would do that. And when your mind is preoccupied, I don't think you have the time to be, you know, even feeling these panic attacks and
Yeah.
whatnot. Especially having a good laugh and talking with your friends. I mean, that's really, I feel like the happiness, it always counteracts everything else too. Okay, because if you're just sitting there and dwindling about your past, or like, oh, I miss her, or whatever, I miss my car, I miss, you know,
Or I should have
miss
done
everything.
this, or I should be doing this.
Yeah,
It's just you're digging yourself in a hole. You're right. I think that's important too, is having that structure of, you know, wake up and do this and get ready for that, and then during your day you're doing this, and you come home and do that. I think you're right. Having that something to do and stay busy helps a lot, because I know for me, like I said, doing stuff, just get my mind off of thinking about whatever, and don't let the anxiety show up. 100%, I agree with you there. Having structure definitely helps, because if you're just kind of just wandering aimlessly, it's like, it's just, I don't know. I guess it's easier to fall into those traps. You know what I'm talking about? And for sure, like during whole COVID and the whole lock-in part, it's like, it sucks because don't see many people as often anymore.
Well, during the COVID.
Yeah, during the whole like shutdown and everything. I mean, that really sucks. Because before, you know, it'd be like, okay, let's all meet up somewhere and just all hang out. And then after a while, it became like, nah, everybody has to stay in now. And then, like, I'm still trying to get out of the mindset of just staying in and trying to get out more and just socialize and talk to people instead of just being behind a screen or, you know, staying in my room or whatever. So that's what I'm trying to do, is just interact more.
The whole COVID pandemic, it changed so many things. It made me see a different perspective about people, and I have so many friends that were affected immensely by it.
Positive and negatively.
Mm-hmm. Both sides of the coin. I've seen people make tons and tons of money because of COVID, and I've seen marriages ending drastically. You know, I mean, I have COVID baby. Like, I have several friends that have a COVID baby. You know,
Being locked up, nothing else to do.
Yeah, I got created around the same time, and
COVID baby.
I think that's what they were calling it. Like, yeah, birth rates went up.
Really? Everybody was locked in, nothing else to do.
Substantially, they went up. But it's a good thing, because birth rates have been going down as of
heard.
Previously,
yeah,
too. So, but like, there's so many things that are happening.
One of the weirdest things that I thought about the whole COVID thing was when some people were called essential and some people were called non-essential. I was like, damn, if you think about it, they're literally telling you you're not essential. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, damn, that's just being right at the gate. You're important. You're not important. And then it's like, then you think about it, right? The grocery workers, they're essential, but we're not gonna like pay you anything to
give you no raise.
Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, if they're out there, if they're that important, maybe you should reflect that with maybe better pay or something like that.
Well, they can't. I mean, they can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
Whenever you look at the economics of everything, if people were getting paid what they deserved, businesses would not make any money. It's just hands down. That's how it is. And the more that you want to sit here and, complain about it, but then nobody is doing anything about it either.
It's true.
So it's like, yeah. I mean, what was that? I believe I saw this interview about these people that were complaining about Amazon, how he was such a slave driver or something.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, and then he said, well, if you want me, I can put higher rates on shipping and then give them more money, and then everybody said no.
Yeah. Yeah, there's balances to everything, right?
Yeah, so it's like you want to complain because you have these services and you think that they're being paid, not the right way or not the way that it's supposed to, but then nobody else wants to do anything about it because nobody wants to lose out of their own pocket.
And I agree too, because there's some things where like I see how they treat the drivers and the warehouse workers. Like, man, that sucks. But I do get my stuff 2 days later, so it's like I'm used to the convenience of getting that. So it's like, oh, that sucks. But honestly, if they say, look, Rick, you're gonna have your Amazon yearly subscription might have to go up another $20, and you might have to wait 3 days. Me personally, if I know that the workers are actually getting a benefit from that, I will personally feel better. Right. Because sometimes, like, man, I see these. I'm a UPS driver, and I see the Amazon drivers, and these guys are running and hustling, and they have no time to do anything. I'm like, holy! I look inside their trucks. I mean, sometimes my trucks like shit, but the way these guys are out there, I mean, there's sometimes I see like 4 or 5 in the same area. I'm like, oh my god! I mean, I heard horror stories of how things are run over there, and I feel for them. Again, but I also believe, I think they're kind of just shitty.
That's what
I think their work quality. I think their work quality is just not. And I'm not trying to brag and blow my own horn, but the way I see them work, also, I'm like, dude, you guys are zigzagging everywhere. You couldn't just do this here, 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 and here. And sometimes they go here, and I see them driving around, and they make a U-turn, and they're driving all crazy with the doors open. I'm like, damn, that doesn't seem effective. Again, I'm not a Amazon employee, so I don't know if they have a certain schedule to keep up or how the infrastructure of how they run their business. But just being an outsider looking in, I'm like, I don't think the quality of work that these guys do is all that great either. So I mean, it's very nuanced. At the end of the day, I just want them to just be treated better and pay right. But also, I think their kind of work ethics are kind of shitty. I mean, and that's not everyone. I'm sure there's some great workers out there.
So let's talk about this this experience that I had. Because I used to live in Katy, and the Amazon warehouse is maybe a couple of streets from where I was working at.
Yeah.
It was late at night. It was probably about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. 3 people come in. I'm not going to say their race or color or whatever, because
you imagine,
even though it is relevant, but like I said, we would get canceled. We're just out here name dropping and doing all these things. One of the girls was a little bit heavy set,
yeah, and
then the other 2 guys, like, one of them was real skinny, and then there was another one that I could not tell what gender it was, but for the sake of the argument, we're just gonna say that it was a guy.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure. They were talking about how unfairly they were treated and how much they had to work and all this stuff. And I come from working in construction, out in the heat,
in Texas,
in Texas, having to carry 100-pound bags of sand over and over all day for 12 hours a day,
or shingles up and down the ladder or whatever. Yeah.
Or just
it's construction.
having to do construction stuff.
Construction, yeah.
And I think to myself, if I go to Amazon, it's probably not that bad. It's probably not that bad. Want to complain about not having 3 breaks? Sometimes we would work with no break. 12 hours inside of a huge like, water tank, sandblasting, having a
Where all the PPE and all the protective gear, and
so
then it's hot.
It's hot. I mean, there was this one time that we had sandblasted for a month, right? And there was 40 pallets of sand that were inside of this tank.
Jesus
40
Christ.
pallets. Each pallet has about 40 bags of 100 pounds of sand. So it's what is that like
40 bags at 100, 400 pounds worth of 400 pounds of sand in a pallet.
4,000, no?
400, 4,000,
40 times 100. It's
400, 40 times. Let me see now. Now everybody's gonna know I'm stupid. Thank you.
I'm like, isn't that 4,000?
It was 4,000. Yeah, 40 times 100. Yeah, it's 4,000. See?
Okay,
Thank you.
now do 4,000 times 40.
Times 40.
Uh-huh. 16,000.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, 16. 100. 160,000.
Oh, 160,000. Okay, so 160,000. That's how many pounds of sand were inside this tank. They gave us 2 wheelbarrows and 3 shovels and
Make it
said, "Hey,
happen.
take it out.
Go.
Take it out of there." It took us 2 entire weeks of shoveling sand out of this tank to get rid of all the sand inside of this tank. And it was just my uncle, this old guy that half of his body didn't work. Like
Oof.
one of his eyes didn't work. Like he
looked
was
into the
5.
future.
He was 5 foot tall. He was just he was really old. He was like 60 something years old, and me who we at the time I was 17.
Oh damn.
I wasn't even 18 yet. So it took us 2 entire weeks to shuffle 160,000 pounds of sand out of this tank. There's no way Amazon is treating them better.
That's true.
Like worse than
You're
that.
right. When you're coming from your background, your experience, and what you've done, you're right. Like no one could sit around you and complain, because you'd be like, look, this is what I did. You're right. You're right. And
But we don't have to go that extreme. You know? I think that people just get told that these jobs are fun and they make money and they should be happy and all these things. And once they come out of that reality, they go into the job and they're like, man, this sucks. Like, I'm not having fun. It's very monotonous. I'm just standing here, like, doing a simple job. And they do get paid better, because I worked at the Academy warehouse and we were getting paid shit.
yeah.
I was working, 40, 50 hours for like $300 a week.
Oof.
And it was hard. I mean, I was working the line, getting stuff out of the truck and stuff. And I mean, it's very dangerous, first of all, because some of that stuff is very heavy.
Yeah.
In the Academy, they have weights, they have bullets.
Oh yeah.
They have all
heavy
these
stuff
things that are like really heavy. You pick it up wrong, you're hurting your back and stuff. Then you have to put it in a conveyor belt, and then you have to put it in these pallets and all this other stuff. I mean, that stuff is not necessarily.
So you've done some hard jobs.
Right.
Any injuries from that? Back?
No.
Broken bones?
I mean, I did hurt my back one time, but
How
it
bad?
wasn't. I mean, you just sprain it. But then again, I've sprained it at almost every job. Can do that if you're lifting
Improper
improperly.
technique will
Right.
mess you up regardless.
I mean, even right now at the restaurant, I lifted a tray that was really heavy, and I tweaked my back. I couldn't even walk straight for like a week
Really?
and a half. And Walmart was the same thing. Whenever you do all the unloading, you have to have a
safety
a
belt.
little safety belt and
Or
stuff.
a weightlifting belt, whatever. Yeah, just keep
Right.
the structure
Yeah,
right.
because this is the same thing. When you work in the line, it's really fast. You have all these items that could potentially be heavy. Then you having to put them, and then take them out, and then have the the stalkers make sure they put everything in the right place. But having to work that truck is tough. So I'm assuming that Amazon, it should be somewhere around that level, that like Academy and Walmart,
A warehouse job.
like a warehouse job, right? Which is not hard. It's just can
Boring.
get hurt. It's
Get hurt.
boring.
Yeah.
You're doing it for hours, and it's awful because you live in your head the entire time.
That's suck.
Yeah, just living in your head sucks, I think.
Living in your head sucks. That's a good quote, Vic. I'll borrow that.
Yeah. when you do these kind of jobs, you have no recreation. There's no music playing, no nothing, right? Sometimes they let you have headphones. I don't know
Yeah.
if they do at Amazon or like what
What the policy is,
their
whatever.
policy is for that. But I mean that's some of the funnest times that I had. As a matter of fact, is when I worked at a Walmart and I was just pulling picks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would have the little machine, then the machine would tell me like, "Hey, this is
Go
the
to
things that
aisle
I
this,
needed."
row this.
Yeah, and I would go and like do picks for people. Oh man, I had my headphones on, listening to music, doing picks all day. There's so much work. You never run out of work. So that's again going back to purpose. When I come in, I would just grab my gun,
Yeah.
boom, 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 having to do all these picks. By the end of my 8 hours or whatever, I was like, oh man, this is fun. Like there's enough work where I'm never not doing something.
Think of it as a challenge, like, all right,
Right.
get this done or whatever. Yeah.
So I thought that was a really fun job. I don't know, like, I don't know how Amazon does their stuff, like how
Yeah.
fun and interactive it might be, but
How long you been doing bartending?
since 2012,
Yeah.
yeah,
Been enjoying it?
it's pretty fun. It's
You meet all sorts of people, right?
all kinds. Women, cougars, you know,
There's MILFs.
milfs,
All of them. All of them. They're all nice. Sweet girls.
No, I mean, I've had some pretty cool conversations with some tow truck drivers,
Yeah.
people who are airplane drivers and stuff.
Pilots.
Pilots, businessmen of all kinds.
And then some shitty people too, I bet.
Oh yeah,
They get drink too much. What are
yeah.
you talking about?
Having cut off people.
I'll tell you when I'm done. You don't tell me when I'm done. I tell you when I'm done.
Oh,
I want
man.
to speak to your manager.
One of
You
my
ever get that? I need to speak to your manager.
nah.
Ah.
I usually offer that to them if they're too drunk. That's how I offer it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is what they told me to do. This is the policy that they have. I don't control that. Now, if you have a problem with it, you can speak to my manager and they might be able to help you further. As a matter of fact, if they want to say that you can have another drink, I'll give it to you. But I'm not going to put my license
In jeopardy.
in jeopardy just
Yeah.
because you feel like you should have another drink.
That's true. You don't work like at a dive bar or anything, right?
Right.
Yeah. You look like if you worked at Red's dive bar.
No,
Then
I
you'd
mean,
be like-
even then, you're still held accountable for getting them too drunk.
Well, I'm just saying, like the clientele you get there, right? It's a
Right.
lot of difference from where you work at now.
Oh yeah,
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like a nicer-ish restaurant. You don't
Ish.
want to get someone to get like super wasted and then cause a scene. So, I was working for this Cajun restaurant, and this couple came up. The lady was from the Dominican Republic. Very pretty, but she was older. You could tell that she was older. She wasn't like super young and perky and whatnot. She was dating this other guy. I believe he said he was from like Honduras or something. And they came in. They were husband and wife, right? I would start talking to them. I'm always chatting up when I'm bartending. That's like one of my favorite things to do. Just
Yeah.
get to know someone, and all that stuff. And she looks at me and she said that she thought I looked cute and whatnot. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like,
Thank you.
You know, you're like, well, yeah. I was like, thank you. You know, your husband's right there, so
Yeah.
you know, get with me after or whatever. So she asked me, hey, what's the strongest drink you got? And I said, it's this particular drink. And she's like, well, let me have one of those. And I said, okay. So I gave it to her. Now, they used to spike this drink with Everclear back in the day. I don't know if they still do, but it's a really dangerous drink. And I told them, I'm like, hey, just letting you know, this thing has Everclear. So have like
You could run a car off of this.
Yeah, one or two, and that's all you wanna have. So she was like, nah, I'm an alcoholic. Like I can drink whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. So she had one drink. Then she asked me for another one. She had another one. And I started telling her, I'm like, hey, you know, slow down. Like, you know, eat some food and whatnot.
I legally can't tell you
Yeah,
this.
and then it just kind of like slow down. Coincidentally, at the same time, my manager comes in the bar and says, hey, you haven't taken a break all day. Go out there, eat something, and then come back in the bar.
So the other bartender.
So she didn't know that
She already had some.
already had to, so she gave her a third one. Oh man, it
What
was
happened?
not like once I got back in the bar, I was like, "Hey, did you give her another one?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, oh no,
And she was
you
already-
shouldn't have done that. Like she was already capped. And then so the thing that was kind of funny, not funny, was that I kept on going and talk to her, and the more that I kept on coming around, the more status that this guy was losing. So he went from being the husband to being the boyfriend to being the I don't even know who this guy
To the
is.
chauffeur.
Yeah, so she started trying to make out with me over the bar.
Oh,
She started trying to
no.
make out with the girl next to her. So oh my god,
She just
this
lost
lady
it completely.
yes, she just went completely crazy. And I told her not to do that. I said, hey, you only want to have one or two of these because I don't care who you are.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah,
That's gonna bring down an elephant.
Yeah, and this guy was just sitting there like,
Oh,
like, oh, man,
not
I don't-
again.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And
Can you imagine being with someone like that? Someone that just can't handle their liquor.
it's not even.
I remember when I was younger, I used to date this one girl, and I like, don't drink, and she would drink. I'm like,
I mean, I've had plenty of friends or girl things that
girl thing.
yeah that have done stuff like that, but I've never lost status like the way that guy was losing status.
I was just
like,
getting cooked.
yeah. You know, you show up, you say that to your husband, and all of a sudden he gets downgraded to a stranger.
Yeesh! In front of the bartender.
Oh, in front of the bar, in front of the
In
whole
a room,
bar,
yeah.
right. I was like, Jesus, that was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough to watch because he kept it pretty cool. It was not like he got mad. He wasn't calling her any names or anything, and that's respectable and amendable, if anything.
That's a whole different dynamic when it comes to relationships. To be able to just like, after a while, I don't know. I'd just be like, man, we need to stop drinking.
And he wasn't even drunk though. He was drinking Michelob Ultra. He maybe had 2 or 3.
I never had a Michelob Ultra.
It's like water.
It's like diet beer, right?
Yeah, you don't. It's very low alcohol content. You might drink 20 to get a buzz. Like yeah. You can drink Michelob forever. You're just gonna
I
go to
haven't
the
drank a
bathroom
beer
a
in
ton.
forever. I just kind of stopped. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like anti-alcohol, but it's just like I never been like I don't have like because before I'd be like, let's get a beer, let's get another one. All right, let's give me another one, and then I'd wake up like, oh god, and now I'm just like, if I don't have a beer, I'm okay, I'm fine.
I'm not like that at all.
No?
I like drinking because that's my problem. I'm like, hey, let's go to Bombshells. Let's go to Ojos or whatever.
Yeah, I think me and Mikkel were coming back from Comic Palooza. We saw bombshells on the side. I was like, Victor says there's a lot of nice people there. I should go with them. She's like, shut up. I'm like, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, come on.
You're not going
I'll just hang out with Vic. He knows some people. We're just going to go for a meal. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, bombshells. Uh-huh.
Nah, it's actually pretty fun stuff.
Bunch of sweet girls over there.
They are. Some of them are, yes, for sure. I mean, because I used to not like going to Bombshells
Why?
because I would rather go to the other place where I could talk to some of the other girls. Because so where I live, there's a cluster of restaurants. So have Ojos, Chili's, the Saltgrass, Blue Bayou, which is a crawfish restaurant, and then we have Bombshells. We have I think Mambo's across the street, Papacitos, Papados. So there's just
You got a lot of stuff
tons.
along the I-10 and then on your area, yeah.
So tons of stuff, just all around. Is just anything you want to eat, you have it. As far as from Tex-Mex to
Anything-
Cajun,
yeah.
and then whatever the wings places and stuff, and Mambo's is like Mexican seafood. Papados is another Louisiana kitchen. Papacitos is Tex-Mex. So we can go anywhere pretty much and then just drink. But I preferred going to Blue Bayou because you're able to talk to the bartenders. They're really cute, and they just kind of make you feel a little bit more at home. So I used to not want to go to like Bombshells and stuff because I would just rather spend my money there. But there was this one bartender, so sweet.
Yeah?
Every time she came in, she always remembered us. She made sure that we got taken care of right away. And then she introduced us to the other bartenders that are there. So now we've gotten noticed. Like now let's see, the business module that I always tell people whenever they're working for a restaurant or they're trying to build a restaurant. You want to build the restaurant with either A, the atmosphere, or be the food that whenever you walk out of the door, you already know where you're going.
Mm.
It's like, hey, I want to go to Bombshells because they treat me right. I know I'm going to see my girl, and then I mean, even though you're not dating her, but,
But you know,
this is the
yeah,
mentality that you have.
yeah,
It's like I want to go see my girl, say hi, and then I'm gonna eat, right? And that's the way that you're supposed to be making a business. That's definitely how you're supposed to be making a business. Because if you're just an afterthought or like,
I guess I'll go
I
here.
guess I'll go here, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're never gonna be making any money
If you don't make
like
that strong
that.
first impression to
Not even the first impression,
or an impression.
just yeah, just being able to have those either those people in there or the module where like the atmosphere is good enough that it doesn't even matter if the service is good, just because of either the regulars that go there or the fact that you have really good food, which I don't think that you should make a restaurant about food anymore.
Really?
It really is supposed to. You're selling more atmosphere than anything else.
Yeah. Going back to when we went to the restaurant with you, me, and Shane, and you were like noticing, and then you said you look around and you see what's going on and stuff like that. How long have you had that? Been able just to pick up on your surroundings and notice like, oh, this isn't right, or this should be like this, or like when did you start noticing like, hey, I'm trying to pick up on some signals or patterns and stuff like that.
I believe around the year 2014 is when I first started taking classes over the restaurant management.
Oh.
And I didn't notice those things before.
Like online classes or something like that?
No, we went to like a convention
Okay.
that they had. This other manager and we went to
Let me
this
hear it.
event.
Scoot up a little bit. Right.
We went to this event, and in that event there was people from all over Houston that had restaurants. Some of them were mom and pop, some of them were not.
Corporate.
Some of them were corporate, and they sent all these people. And in the seminar, they started talking about these viewpoints, and I started listening to what they were saying and then noticing it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the restaurant that I used to work at, he was really good about letting me see things that I never had noticed before. Not only in interview processes, when I would talk to people, what their mannerisms were, learning how to read guests, learning how to, tell the staff what to do in a way that they would do it.
Mm-hmm.
What was wrong with a certain part of the restaurant. He'd always tell me, hey, you have to step back, get the farthest view that you can, and then analyze the room. Don't just focus on one thing. Don't just walk around and focus on this thing, because you're never going to find everything, but you need to just look at it as a whole, because the eye of the guest is always going to be the top priority of whenever you're working at a restaurant. It's like the eye of the guest, not you from within having to fix these small things. And from there, I started noticing things as a whole, not as just one individual thing. So I didn't have the tunnel vision of being a manager or being a server or anything like that. I started noticing what a business person would look at.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started working with this other guy that was doing the consulting for the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And then him and I would either shut down restaurants or build restaurants so they can open them up.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that's how I started really noticing like the nit and pick, like how to be able to pass the fire departments, like all the codes,
The safety codes and fire codes, whatever.
fire
Yeah.
codes, like anything like that. How a restaurant should be made, where you should put a drain, where you need to put a 3-compartment sink, where you need to have a sink for you to wash your hands, and all of these things that we had to do. So I was, like I said, that's why I was like, whenever I walk into a restaurant, I can always be like, man, that doesn't pass code. That doesn't pass code. That doesn't pass fire inspection. Like,
This ain't up to date. This is exposed. This shouldn't be. This should be covered. This
is not tagged. This is not labeled. This is not. Also, the way that you stack things in your restaurant, you have to stack them like meats in the bottom, and then produce, and then juices, and whatever. So there's a certain way that you stack everything in the shelves. And if you walk in the shelf and you're like, hey, that's not That's nowhere near correct.
It probably
Like, you're
reflects
just
on management or something. You know, the
yeah.
way the business is ran or
Well,
run.
most businesses are gonna be, you're either gonna be successful because of your management staff, or the, from at least from what I've seen, it always works on management. Owners are the most harmful thing that you can have in a restaurant, because the owners, they want to micromanage, like if they're the managers.
Mm.
But if you're micromanaging, many things that happen is that whenever someone has a problem, like, okay, let's say that you're my manager, right? And I'm always trying to coach you up, and I'm like, hey, Rick, you're the boss. You make sure you tell these people what to do. You make sure you get them in line, and you do all this stuff, right? And then you're like, yes, sir. Like, I'm going to do my best, right? But then the next day I come in, and then I tell, I don't know, Daisy, hey, Daisy, if you ever have a problem, here's my number. Make sure that you reach at me if there's anything wrong, right? So then what's going to happen if there's a problem? What is Daisy going to do?
Go to the owner.
Right. But then what about you? Right?
Yeah.
So he's chopping your head because
Like, you're being not following the chain of command. You're being
Right.
undermined.
You're being undermined, and then now you have the owner that is aware of all the problems. It could be like stupid problems too.
Yeah.
So then the owner is gonna be mad. He's like, "Hey, why is Daisy calling me about you not being there at 8:15 or something, or whatever, or
Yeah.
like you leaving in the middle of the shift, and she's saying that you're not there and she needed you for blah blah blah." So she's burning you like bad, right?
Yeah.
And then the owner is mad because he thinks that you're not doing your job. But the problem is that he allowed you to not do your job in the first place, and then that's whenever you start getting mad. You start feeling like you're not
Tensions start
appreciated.
building.
Yes, and then that manager can ruin your business. But that wasn't on you. That was on the owner not being able to
Just
you know,
let his staff do what they got to do.
right. Like all you want an owner to do, come in for 15 seconds, look at everything, and say like, "Hey, the numbers don't look good," or "Hey, the numbers look good. Keep it up."
Yeah.
And then that's it. Like, that's all you want. You don't want an owner to be there longer than like 15 minutes.
And start getting on your business and mess up the
The
the flow and the way things are done, and yeah.
If an owner doesn't even say hi to the staff, that's even better.
Yeah.
And that sounds cold, but it really is true.
Just deal with the money, deal with the numbers.
Yeah.
Let us take care of in-house.
It's just human nature. Like, human nature wants to always, like the way that social media works. You always want to be told, hey, like
Oh yeah, like follow,
hey, heart,
like follow.
heart, yeah,
Yeah.
emoji, hey.
Yeah.
So when they see the owner, they're like, hey, how's it going? Oh, hey, emojis.
Emojis.
It's like, yeah, that's cool and all, but whenever it comes to a business, they're not looking at the likes. They're just looking at
bottom number.
algorithms, right?
Yeah.
They're looking at like the whole thing as a whole. Like, what
How much
are
money?
people saying? How much money? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because that's kind of how I am. Sometimes I see other delivery drivers, and I guess how I do something, I look at how they're doing. I'm like, man, that's not right. They're driving with the door open. They're not even putting it on the dolly right. They're parked wrong. So I guess that makes sense now, that because you're always in that business, and then you go in there and you look at it, and you go to another restaurant, you're like, this doesn't look right, or this is wrong. Also, when it comes to the customer, I guess it's one of those things you kind of like read the body language when they're coming in. Like, do you see the couple like hanging out, like holding hands, or do you see them kind of like not happy, or do you see the individual kind of?
Most couples are not happy right now. Let's just shut that down real quick. I don't think I've seen people come in with their like holding hands and stuff, or in high school. Like,
you are very pessimistic sometimes. No, I'm a realist, right?
yeah. I mean, this is how I have not seen people hold hands in a very long time. Like, I can't even tell you. Yeah, that even goes for me.
How many times do you see a couple like doing this?
Oh, I've seen dates go like that before. Yeah, where they were just on the phone 100%, and when they first came in, they were so happy together and smiling, and then I'd go through the dinner cycle, and then they're just on the phone, and I'm like, yeah, it's over. Like, there's nothing going on after this. I'm just gonna drop this check. I've seen the girl pay pay the bill. The dude
Excuse
doesn't
me.
even pay the bill because she wants to get the hell out of there.
That's how bad it is.
That's how bad it is. You don't even care.
Yeah,
So-
when me and Mikkel go out to dinner, it's like, all right, I just put my phone over here with the keys and everything, right? And we just talk and talk and talk. And then I'll just kind of like room watch, like people watch. I'm like on their phone, on their phone, on their phone. I was like, damn. I think it's become the norm for a lot of people just to be like, I mean, I get it. There's sometimes like I check my phone too, but I try not to. Like, if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, check that. You know, it's just I'm here to have a conversation with Vic and stuff like that, or I have a conversation with my wife when we're out to dinner or something like that. But there's a lot of times you'll see it where people like I'm making deliveries, instead of people like just like while they're waiting, just talking to each other. Something everybody in the waiting room is.
Oh, and the waiting room is a must. I mean, in the waiting room is a must. You have. There's no way that I can be in a waiting room.
Really? Sometimes I
without
try to
a
be
phone.
like, oh, check that out. Or I don't know. Sometimes I'm like not trying to like strike a conversation every time, but sometimes I'm like, oh man, did you see that or something like that?
I mean, when you're sitting on the toilet, are you gonna?
Oh,
be
well,
without,
yeah.
Are you gonna
Or,
be without
I
a
mean,
phone?
yeah.
That's how I see me being in a waiting room. Like I'm in the toilet right now. Like I need something to do. Like that is the worst comparison. Like now I can see if you're going out to eat or something, or you're going out with friends.
And then everybody,
I haven't been at a club in a long time. I don't know how bad it is. But if I go to a club and
Can you imagine
half
they're all,
the,
like,
half the
dancing?
people, are just on the phone, like taking selfies and stuff, and they're not really engaging with people. They're just over there talking and being like, "Oh, it's so fun here at the club," but you don't put your phone down. It's like, well, what's fun?
what's
You
the
could've
fun
been-
part?
Yeah, where is the fun part?
Or maybe we're just old and that is the fun.
But I don't know, man. I don't know because we grew up in this really weird time space.
Yeah, we're in that space where we grew up to
With
be
no
young adults
technology? Yeah.
without internet and phones until now as young, now we're adults and we have that. So we kind of see where it was without it
Right.
and how it is with it.
Because when I was going to numbers and I was 16 years old, I didn't even have a cell phone. Nobody had a cell phone. Like hardly anybody
No.
had a cell phone.
No.
Right? We were forced to engage with each other. We weren't
Just
we
hanging
didn't
out, chit chatting while
any-
you're in waiting lines or get in or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
waited 30 minutes to get into
Yeah,
numbers.
I was talking to Mikkel. It used to be when I was younger, all the neighborhood kids, like, oh, Marco lives down the street. And I wouldn't call Marco because I didn't have a phone. I would just go to his house. Hey, is Marco here? Now he went out with his dad to go, okay, well, let's go check on Carlos. And we go to Carlos's house. Oh, Carlos ain't there either. Well, let's go walk to Lewis's house. It's just kind of like go out there and walk and see if they're there or not,
We did so much walking. So much
Hey,
walking.
you think so-and-so's at the house? I don't know, let's go visit them.
Are you that my friend Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, name dropping again. So Jesus would call me every day at midnight during the summer, and I had to be right next to the phone because I didn't want to
Of
wake
course.
up mom. So
And you had the long cord that had
I had
kinks
to-
in it.
I had to have it like right there. So he would ring up at 12 and he would just be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Nothing. Just watching some anime. Like, hey, let's go walking.
Okay.
All right. So then we would go meet up at HEV. And from HEV, we would be on, let's see, what is Southmore and Burke.
Okay.
And we would walk all the way to Spencer and like Strawberry or something, which is like an hour
Yeah.
walk, right? And we would make that walk and then come back around, loop back around, and then go knock on my friend Paul's house and like in another neighborhood. So it would be like a 2 hour just to go get some chips and some
Just to
Cokes
hang
or
out.
something. Yeah. I mean, we were just walking to walk. Like,
Yeah.
there was no.
You were
no
young. You didn't have
reason.
any jobs. I mean, just go hang out with your friends.
Yeah, we just walked. There was just nothing. It's not like we didn't have anything else to do. We just kind of what we enjoy doing. We would wake up Paul. Paul would be all mad because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we just get in there and just play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to the morning time or whatever. So
That was you were out of school by then.
we were in
Oh, that's
high
summer
school.
break?
We were in high
It's like
school. It
summer
was during
break,
the summer
probably.
break.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah,
During
yeah.
summer break, we would do that. We wouldn't do that.
I don't. Yes, what the hell you guys do?
Because we would usually what we would do is that we would go to school and then on Friday we all would go back home, grab extra clothes, and then go stay the night at Paul's. So we would
Okay.
stay the night at Paul's Friday, Saturday,
And then go back
and
home
then go
Sunday.
back. Yeah, go back home Sunday, and that's what we did every weekend for most of our high school life.
Sounds like fun.
That's all it was.
Yeah, hang out with your boys. That's how it was. It was always be me, Marco, Carlos, Lewis, and Vladimir. We just hang out and be silly and play video games and shit.
Yeah.
On the weekends.
And all those guys that were there, they were there for whenever my friend had his aneurysm. So all those guys still we still hang out with all of them. Well, not as often, but I mean.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think causes that? Not hanging out with people, just the routines of work.
Just get old.
Separate.
Yeah.
Different views.
Well, there's a very interesting thing that is going on. More than half of those guys don't even have kids. So Gustavo never had kids. Miro doesn't have kids. Jesus doesn't have kids. Shantara doesn't have kids. Freddie doesn't have kids. So
are they all
5
single?
of them. Shantara's single. Jesus is single. Freddie's single. Miro was divorced. And then
you just name drop like all your homies.
yeah, like all of them.
That's okay. They're not listening.
And so all of them are single, and the only ones that actually have kids is Paul has kids, and me. That's it. I think. So out of like the 7, 8,
they're all still bachelors.
Yeah. No, but I mean, some of them were divorced.
Okay.
Some of them were divorced, but they still had no kids. So that's crazy. It's a crazy percentages because I can guarantee you that, my dad's group of friends, like 90% of them probably had kids. And when we're talking about, a group of 8 kids, only 2 of them had kids. 2 out of 8
that's a decline.
That's a huge percentage.
Yeah.
With 20%.
And
only
then
20% of the group.
Yeah, and then 20 years down the line, when you start needing young workforce and just a population that can't do the physical stuff that the young, because I mean, how many times you heard, oh, that's a young man's job,
Yeah.
If they're not available, it's like, oh shit, then what? There's a lot of things that go on to you don't think about it now, but it's like, oh yeah, you don't have the manpower or the youth to do this. I'm like, how's that going to affect this business or this economy or something down the line?
Yeah, there is. There's many, because that's where the ones that lived here, but that wasn't even the whole group. Because the other part of the group, like the extended group, all of those guys don't have kids either, and some of them are older. Like Pepe is older than us. Another guy that is kind of famous. I don't want to say his name. I'll say their name. He doesn't have any kids either. So their percentage is actually much lower. Much lower.
Even in my circle of friends, some of us have kids. I mean, I don't have kids. So yeah, I'm not helping. I gotta go make some babies somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that maybe it's becoming the norm.
But so I was watching this.
How do you frame it? How do you picture it?
Now this is just gonna be a social collapse because infrastructure jobs are not being filled. Even when we went to Gustavo's house with Brianna had her generation of kids, so she had her nephew there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what those guys were doing?
What?
They're sitting there watching YouTube, trying to rap to beats. And that looks harmless.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you really think about it, as a 13-year-old kid, I was working.
Victor, I think you had a lot different
But
childhood. I mean, I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm just saying.
But I mean, I'm taking myself, and I should never really speak about myself, and maybe try to speak about generalities. So kids in Mexico, at my age, were already working too. They were baggers, whatever. They're always trying to sell something, or their parents had them push themselves to do something.
Yeah.
Right. That's the culture in Mexico.
Yeah.
When you come to the United States, you don't see any of that. Right. But I think that's a problem too. Because we're letting our kids do whatever. Most of them don't even get out of their shell and don't really do anything till they're 30.
Yeah.
And when you really think about that, it's hey, by then, what good are you for almost
What
any
skills or trades have you picked up along the way? If you're just now,
if you're just now trying to join
That's
like
true.
a workforce that's
Or trying to learn
meaningful,
something, yeah.
that's meaningful,
Yeah.
like a meaningful workforce.
I mean, how many
Like-
times have you seen it where they, they have TikTok videos and it just shows kids dancing? It's like maybe, and then like you hear China TikTok videos and they're like showing them like, things of athleticism or, things of scholar stuff, like, learning stuff, doing like things that might be useful. Because there's a lot of times I'm making deliveries and I see the kids pull their phone out, put it on the top of a hood and start doing stupid dances. I'm like, and sometimes I think of it, okay, kids being kids. But then
Yeah,
you start
but-
thinking about it in a deeper level. You're like, that's the future.
You just can't compare Chinese kids to American kids because in China, their school system, they have schools for actually China tells you where your IQ level is. Like they do an assessment and they say, "Oh, dude, this guy's just going to be a bricklayer. Put him with the school with the bricklayers." And then this kid did pretty good and he's like, "Oh, well this kid did pretty good. Put him along with the scientist. Put him along with this." So they have
Mathematicians or something.
yeah, they have like very specific
Roles.
like roles and frame jobs that they are. I don't really think that they're putting them down per se, but they know where their strengths are, and then they give you that purpose in order for you to like make the strengths. Because if you're a laborer, if you're just gonna be the muscle, then they're just gonna be like, hey. Unfortunately, I guess you
you're good
can
at.
move up, but like this is what we also need you.
Yeah.
Like, we also need infrastructure jobs.
We also need muscle to work, move things. Yeah.
What are kids doing now? Oh well, I'm gonna get on this rap gang and
I'm
drink.
gonna be an
and
influencer.
smoke. I'm gonna be an influencer. I'm gonna smoke weed, and I can ask 115-year-olds if they know how to.
Change oil.
Not even that. Like, hey, can you tell me anything about like sewage systems, how they work?
What's a P trap? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain anything like that? Like essential jobs that you really do need, infrastructure jobs.
Like
that you
hands-on trades, like plumbers, electricians,
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah.
you-
Mechanics.
Any of that stuff. No, nobody dreams of being that. Nobody.
They're not glorified, right?
Yeah, none of these
They're not
kids.
glorified.
They're not thinking that that's cool or anything. I mean, I think it's cool.
Welders, stuff like that.
Yeah, like nobody's glorifying those jobs. If you're gonna wait till you're 30 to do those jobs because your failed music career or your influencer career, but what's gonna happen in between all of those years?
Yeah. A whole generation, right?
You know, like a whole generation is being skipped. Like what? Who's gonna fill in those blank spaces?
Yeah. Because eventually we're gonna get old.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, we're not going to do it, right? Like, I'm not going to do it. You're probably not going to do it. But then the 20-year-olds don't want to do it. They're not going to want to maybe do it until they're 30. So what is going to happen between those 15 to 20 years? Well, like, what's going to happen in that gap?
Yeah.
When people are just going to desperately be saying, and are women going to do it? Maybe,
Maybe not.
Like a 5% of them, maybe. Because they're also able bodies. I mean, they could technically do it. I've seen people do construction before. I've
Yeah.
seen girls do construction before.
I've seen them in the oil fields and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's-
But it's predominantly a male-driven profession. Yeah.
Yeah, but you always see 2 or 3 of them that are out there,
Yeah.
doing scaffolding or
I mean, just like a
doing
UPS,
some kind of
there's
electrical stuff.
a handful of female drivers that do the job well, and they do it
Yeah, but like I said, it's not like infrastructure.
for sure. Yeah. You're right.
They're not going to be out there doing the pavement and doing all these things. So most of those trades don't really even get paid that well. But what's going to happen when there's nobody doing them? So that's what I mean by the economical collapse.
And the thing's just being automated, right? I mean, I think we talked about it last time where I went to McDonald's and all I saw was a kiosk, boop, boop, boop,
Yeah.
card, boop, and then I just wait and that's it. And that's, I mean,
Yeah, but
I guess you could run it with the skull.
Most of the jobs are not going to be automated, at least not right now. So
Like what do you mean jobs? Like the trade jobs and stuff like,
like the
that.
trade jobs,
yeah.
like the plumbers.
yeah,
know,
because
the welders.
you got to be really hands on and be able to adjust and make and calculate and move things and stuff like
dig
that
and all these things.
till the robots show up.
Yeah, but we're probably gonna be in Mars before we get to that.
It'll be a Big Brother's watch. We'll be in 1984.
Oh yeah, 1984.
What's the bright side in the future, Vic? What can we do to like say right and be positive? Just stay active. Do your hobbies.
Hold on, you want the pessimist or you want?
I want the optimistic. Tell me something. Let's end this podcast on a positive note.
the way that everything is headed, the only thing that I can see as a positive is that the government is gonna start a war and is gonna get all these guys and women to basically you're gonna be like, hey, we need people. We need you guys to do this and this and that. So once they militarize our whole society again, then those people coming out of school, they're gonna get into these trade jobs that we need and say, hey, we need to rebuild this infrastructure, and then we're gonna go through like a whole economical change, or it could be like a whole shift in the way that everything is out in the modern world. Because when you look at it from World War II, before World War II, they didn't have all these suburbs and these subdivisions and all this other stuff, right? There was just people who lived in the city and then people who lived in rural areas.
Yeah.
And then coming out of World War II, that's what we call the baby boomers, right? They started building all the infrastructure, started building all these
Doing all these jobs and
all
everything.
these jobs.
and
They started making all these houses. They started putting all this money back
building
into
cars,
society,
building
cars.
houses.
And
yeah.
then that's how we got to the point where, you know, we got into this like peaceful times other than Vietnam. But I mean, even Vietnam, like coming out of Vietnam, it was the same thing. Like people were making tons and tons of money in the 70s and 80s because, you know, there were so many people that grew up having these infrastructure jobs, and then all of a sudden they had companies, and then those companies made them money and stuff like that.
And being real productive and doing things.
Right.
Yeah.
So eventually, I'm hoping that the government is going to be like, oh, there's a fake war with Russia or whatever.
The proxy war. There we go.
Yeah, we have some war over there. And then, but, you know, start all over again. Like, just try to rebuild the infrastructure again. All these people learn new skills and learn new jobs. And then, of course, we'll be dinosaurs by then.
We'll be relics.
Yeah, we'll just be like, hey, you know,
I
we're
just sit on
still
my
over here
porch.
playing Magic, but, you know, you guys are over there fighting a war with all these Russians or whatever. So that's the only thing that I can see as an alternative. I mean, you can look at it however, like you can call it like most Middle Ages. What happened during the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages.
I think you
There was
like live
two
to
Dark Ages.
you like live to like 30 maybe if you didn't break a bone.
Well, how did the Dark Age become the Dark Age? And it happened twice. It happened one in the ancient times, and it happened one in the semi-modern times. So
The semi well, the only time I think about Dark Ages is like Europe in like 1600s, where you know there's a lot of, you know, the churches had all the power and people were trying just very unsanitary conditions, and people were just getting sick all the time and no medical health, and I guess they didn't write down as much of the information as they did before.
no, the Dark Ages was before that. It was like somewhere around the 1200s.
Okay.
So it was the fall of the Eastern European, the Roman Empire.
Okay.
What happened, which is, I mean, you can see it in the now times, which is a scary time, right?
Because every empire eventually falls, right?
Well, not eventually, but at least it's been proven that they all do. So there's that, but there's several different reasons as to why. So it's just you always have to go to that, and basically, spoiled children is what ruined everything, what ruined the world. That's what happened with the Romans. The Romans, they had so much wealth, but then the next generations of Romans, they stopped learning how to do things because they were pampered. So they were being raised with money. So
Yeah.
they didn't want to do the jobs that their parents and grandparents did to earn that money. So they just had a bunch of slaves do that stuff for them. Eventually, the emperors started losing money. They started printing tons of money. And this is important. The printing of the money. Because we saw that during COVID, they printed bunch of like so much money.
The stimulus checks and everything,
The
right?
stimulus checks that were just printing money out of nowhere, so they completely caused this huge inflation. That's what happened to the Romans too. Their money started being less gold in it. It
Less
was
valued.
Less valued, so they were undervalued. Everything started collapsing. Food shortages, people were losing money. There were, for every one Roman, there was 10 slaves, and eventually,
They outnumbered.
they got outnumbered and they got taken over. Now, what happened when the Roman Empire fell? So when it fell, all these people that were, like the Romans knew how to build the roads. They had their Like there were scholars, so
There were philosophers,
there were
scholars,
philosophers,
architects, artists, all
all
sorts
the
of things. Yeah.
literature was all Roman. Once the Romans stopped going to all these other places, all these other places just reverted to being back in like the cave days.
Mm.
They didn't know how to rebuild the roads. They didn't know how to build houses. They didn't know how to build technology, and they didn't have a system of writing either.
Mm.
So these people went back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Oh, that knowledge lost.
Yes, that's where the Dark Ages happened,
Mm.
and it also happened in the ancient times with the Egyptians and I believe it was like the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the
Yeah.
Assyrians, like the Persians, and they had a whole war between each other. But I mean, there was more people, and then only about 4 of them survived that war, and everybody else got taken to the Dark Ages.
Like four,
Like 4 civilizations.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because they all fought in between all of them, but only 4 civilizations came out on top. The Egyptians being one of them.
That was like the days of like Cleopatra and Alexander and stuff like that.
Cleopatra and Alexander happened in, like, not even that long ago, to be honest. I think, what was it, like 200 BC?
Okay.
Something like that. So, I mean, I said not really that long ago, but then again,
In the
Egyptians-
in the time frame of society.
yeah,
and,
the Egyptian civilization
history.
is huge. They were there for a very, very long time. So
I think you're right. I don't think there's been an influence and an emphasis. I'm not saying it right. There's not much of like it's great to be learning skills and stuff like that. I don't think it's really shown upon. Like it's not being like celebrated or stuff like that. There's so many times where I see just people like they don't know how to do like basic stuff like skills, and it's just
I mean, cooking.
yeah, cooking.
Cooking is a
Just
fine
to
example.
sustain yourself.
It's a fine example.
How many times someone that just constantly just all they do is DoorDash or constantly just eats fast food?
No, I mean, when we're talking about society, and this is the scary factors of society. Gather 10 girls and say, hey, I want you guys to make me like a pot roast. Probably half of them know how to do it. The other half don't. Like off of the top of their head, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine you go ask, I can grab 20 grandmas and I ask them, hey, can you make me a pot roast? And they all would be able to do it.
That's true.
So within just a few generations, we're just losing common knowledge. Common knowledge. That's not even uncommon knowledge, right? Because our parents may not have been like the best of parents, but then now we growing up like shitty kids, right? And then from there, like those kids are even having shittier times because their parents were shit, right?
Yeah.
And their parents are just not teaching anything. They don't, like, moms aren't teaching how to cook because they have to work all the time. So they're not teaching you how to make pies.
Have the time, yeah.
They're not teaching, they don't have the time to teach their daughters or even their sons how to be in the kitchen and do things that,
Just
most
to be
people,
self-sustained.
most people would just be able to do that. Like, they just be able to do any of that stuff, man. Like, I've met people who don't even know how to make ground beef with potatoes and stuff. And I'm like, that's crazy that I know how to cook more than girls do. Because back in those days, like, the men of the house never had to cook anything other than maybe steaks and hamburgers and
Or barbecue every once in a while,
barbecue
yeah.
or whatever, because they enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, the social aspect
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
now, like, man, there's so much, just the whole household, the household as
The
a
dynamic
whole
has
is-
changed, right?
But see, that's the problem that I have with it is that I don't think it should have changed. I don't think it should have ever changed. I think we were fine. If we were already prosperous being a certain way, then why did they change it? And why are they changing it so drastically? And it's not just your preference in music, your preference in media. I mean, just overall, like, just the human experience is what's been changing.
Technology, right?
No, we can't
Part of
blame-
it.
You can't blame technology because I'm sure there's Japan has technology and those guys cook for themselves every day.
That's true. They do have but they're also like, I mean, aren't they like super depressed and stuff and have a very weird like work ethic? I mean, okay, I say weird work ethic, but it becomes like that's all they
Okay,
It's a different culture for
we
sure,
can
right?
walk into any room and pinpoint the bads of everything. We can do that with society, but the fact that the school system is teaching them how to cook, they're very, they teach them from a young age. They have this home economic classes that, hey, this is how you're supposed to go buy this. This is what you're supposed to do. They teach them how to haggle. They teach them like real life skills that
Real
they
life
can
skills.
use.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a supermarket that's gonna have this fish at this discount price. So now the kids are thinking about it too. They're thinking about money, like money moves.
What's a good deal? And what is an actual good deal compared to buy one get one free or getting this at a certain percentage off?
And that's a skill in its own. That really is a skill in its own, because I didn't know how to haggle until my brother had to punk me on it.
What happened?
So he was selling this car, and his car, he had it valued at 1,500 or something like that. It was like 2,500 or something. So he was asking for 3,500, even though he wanted to sell it at 2,500. And I looked at him and I was like, "You're fucking stupid." I was like, "Why would you say 3,500 if you just want 2,500 for it?" And he was like, "No, you're the idiot, because they're gonna come to me and they're gonna say 3,500 is a little much, but I'll give you 3,000." And in my head, I just earned 500 more than what I thought was I was gonna get, because he knew that people were gonna haggle them. And I was like, "Wow, I am the idiot," because I would have never thought of that.
You gotta have a set price, go higher, and then like kind of negotiate your way down.
Right. And you can do that with anything. Like you can do it if somebody's trying to hire you for a position and they're like, "Hey Vic, we're offering you 55K. And these are the perks and this and that and this and that." Look, I'm going to ask for more.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, I don't want 55K. I want 62."
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, "Done." Right? Why would they say done so fast?
Because they already had a magic
Because
number
he already
already.
had a number that he was gonna give.
It was a certain
something higher,
threshold.
right? But I burned myself because I said 62, but maybe he was even willing to go all the way up to 70.
Who knows? Yeah.
But that's the whole process. Like, kids don't know that shit no more. They don't know that. They don't see things like that. They would never even think about that. I mean, myself included. If I didn't get taught that lesson, then
You could have been going on.
I would have been just stupid.
Sounds great.
Not
Okay.
know how to
1,500,
haggle or
sure.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So there's small skills that are being taught
That have a big impact
that
later
have a
on.
big impact on everything that you do in life.
Yeah.
And we're over here, smoking weed and trying to write rap lyrics about money that you don't have.
TikTok dances.
What TikTok dances, women that you don't have and you don't deserve.
Or will ever get.
Right. So
Can I just hang out with Salma Hayek? Just want to hang out with her.
actually, so one of Salma's friends was one of my sugar mamas.
No way.
Yes. Yeah, so I can make your dream come true, actually. So yeah, pretty fun stuff.
Vic, we gotta wrap it up. We're
right.
pushing at 2 and almost 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Had a blast.
Thank you so much.
Good
for
again.
having me.
So, you want to do your own podcast? Eventually?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually?
That's what I'm
I think you got some good
working
stuff. I think you got some good stuff. And I really like your perspective because I think you see things different and you've had a very unique way of growing up and see the way you see things. And I like it. I think it's awesome. I think you should follow through. And if you need help, I will help you.
All right.
Do it again?
Yes, sir.
We will. All right. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Peace out.